We should be ready to start momentarily. I think once the other two MPs for St. Philip arrive, and
Just apologize for them because cabinet just finished. And as you know, I don't drive myself, so I got up here a little quicker than the rest. So they should all be here very soon because we've been in cabinet all day. All right? Thanks.
Good evening, Madam Prime Minister.
Okay, because the porta-cooler, Mr. Songman, is so loud, I'm not even sure that we need the porta-cooler in here because the breeze, well, the breeze coming through at the back of the window is going, so you're gonna have to make sure that the mic is loud enough for us to hear because we're hearing the porta-cooler more than anything else here, please.
Yes, since I have been given the honor of taking the new ball, and I am only a spectator when it comes to cricket. So whether the new ball is the face or the bowl, I will leave it to someone else. But I just want to say welcome to St. Philip. I am not in position, I am a commere, so I will not be able to say on behalf of Philippines what I can say on behalf of those from Sanford, where I live.
But give you your name, address.
My name is
so
Raul.
that there can be proper records.
My name is Raul David Eastman, as against the former minister, and I live in Sanford, St. Philip. Good. As a former member of many charitable organizations, one of the mandates is that you get up, speak up, and shut up. And since I have persons here who would know that this was our mandate, I will have to go along with it. Today, there are only 3 points, and all environmental points I would like to raise. And since they are all environmental, I would like to raise one after the other, and at the end of it, I want to give suggestions of where we can
Please.
remedy the problems. As I said, I live in Sanford, on the agricultural sector of Sanford. And fortunately, I have good paved road right up to my driveway. But it is a little, I feel badly for those who live on the upper side of me, on the eastern side, because I cannot call it a carrot road. That would be really giving it a good name. It is a deplorable road from past my house eastward to the point where those residents who live upward from where I am has got to walk with 2 pairs of shoes once the rain comes heavily. Most of the time, it's a pair of Wellington boots to get to the main road. And I'm not exaggerating. Once they get there, they then change from the boots to the shoes they want to wear to work or to school, and they hide the boots in the bush till they get back home to go back through the same process to get to their house. This is 2024, and this is not who we are. And I think we are not asking for too much. This is point number 1. Point number 2 is that there is a water channel that goes from St. John, and my representative, who is right here, it passes to the west of her property, or passes through her property, and it goes on to just to the east of the California Exchange by the top of Lucas Street. There's a bridge there that is in a bad state of disrepair. And even though we know that that cannot be solved right away, it is causing a problem.
What's the specific issue? The
What
water
happens
channel that
with the-
passes through
What
by
happens?
Sonia? Go ahead.
When it gets, because the channel is very full of, is very bushy, Actually, that whole channel is full with some trees, be it in Bajan parlance, woman-town trees, mul trees, mossy, whatever you want to call it. And when the water comes down, because of the debris that it brings along with it, it causes the water flow to be retarded. So when it gets to that bridge, it goes over that bridge, and that is where the chaos starts.
Okay. What I'm hearing from you with respect to both, and the Deputy Prime Minister will be here soon, but I'm sure there are people from MTW here already. The Acting Chief Technical Officer, Mr. Boyne, is here, and I will ask Mr. Boyne to please have a site visit done, both to be able to see the unpaved road, but also to see this channel that you say is full, the water channel that is full of trees, and that may well lead to flooding and other damage, I assume. I'm not sure what the particular issue is as it relates to it by the bridge, but suffice it to say that they will do a site visit, and they have your number. And Sonia is telling me that it will be a site visit again, and to arrange it. Let me say, as it relates to the unpaved roads, particularly where residents live, I have been in government, I've been in public life, 35 years this last weekend. And it is only in the last few years that government has started to treat seriously to the paving of roads, particularly tenantries, where persons have to go with 2 and 3 pairs of shoes. And it will be impossible for us to meet all of the unpaved roads overnight, or in the blink of an eye, or in 2, 3, 4 years, because of the fact that these roads have been unpaved in these tenantries or in some of the developments for as long as those tenantries or developments have existed. In this particular parish, and I'm sorry Indar isn't here, but in particular in his constituency, there were a lot of private developments done. And Minister Duguid may know this because in many instances, these private developments had obligations to deliver roads, to put down roads, or to do drainage, or to do other things. And I'm talking about developments going back from the 1970s. But you would appreciate that the fact that they are in utter disrepair, or in some instances they were never properly completed, means that we are now carrying the costs at the public level when they have privatized the profits and are now asking us to socialize the losses and the developments, the fixing of the developments that have to be done. Because of that, we've said that the enforcement arm of the Planning and Development Unit, as it now is known to be, has to become far more rigorous, because it's not fair for the people who bought the property to have to endure improper roads, but it is equally not fair for the taxpayers who have not benefited from the profits associated with the purchase of the property to have to bear the costs when persons paid a price that implied that they would have proper services and amenities with the property or piece of land that they were buying. So we hear you, but I give you that context as we go forward. Okay?
Okay, one other matter I would like to raise.
Last point?
Yes.
Thank you.
There is a forest in Sanford, the Sanford Forest, the residents call it. It's a 2-acre lot just to the top of Lucas Street to the right. We have been complaining about the conditions of the lot for over 8 years. I say 8 years because 7 years ago, when I spoke to the then Minister of the Environment at St. Philip Polyclinic, he told me that, in fact, he told us that the owner of the property has been asked for the last 7 years to clear it, and as far as he knows, government has put him in court about it. So far, nothing has been done about it. It is now very thick, especially now that the rain has started to fall. There are some very tall trees that have gone into the electrical wiring, which can be very hazardous. And the bush, the foliage under these trees has been so thick that you cannot see.
And the AG, perhaps, as you know, the AG introduced in Parliament yesterday the amendments to allow us to be able to deal with this problem across Barbados. I maintain that the worst story that we heard was in fact in St. James Speaks with a lady who was badly, I don't know if to use the word injured or what, but as a result of a virus caught as a result of the bush on the land next to her being a public nuisance, she has literally become paralyzed. And we believe that this is too serious an issue. We all know that every right carries a responsibility, and the right to ownership equally carries a responsibility. But in a civilized society, if people don't exercise their rights properly, the law then has to step in order to be able to help them do that which they must do, because while you all have rights, your rights are constrained by the rights of the other person. And to that extent, therefore, if the person is not cleaning the lot, our first responsibility is to be able to try to clean it. But if we clean it, then the money has to be recovered. And the reality is that the only way sometimes people hear you is when it touches their pockets. This bill has now gone to the Standing Committee on Social and Environmental Matters in Parliament, and this will give persons like yourself an opportunity, if you so desire, to be able to comment on what is before Parliament. And once that public consultation and review, section by section, clause by clause, is completed, then it will come back to the House of Assembly for us then to determine whether we accept any changes as recommended by the Standing Committee or whether it remains as it was when it went down. So I hear you. I simply would ask, however, that CTO, when you go to visit the road, that you also do a location thing for us, a location pin, so that we can share that with either the Ministry of Health or NCC, depending on which one, so that we can at least solve the problem of ensuring that it is clean, because the absence of cleanliness may well have deleterious consequences of both a criminal nature or a public health nature to residents in the area. Okay?
You mentioned 2 points,
Yes,
criminal and public health.
Yep.
There was a person whose vehicle was involved in a criminal road accident who stashed his cars in that same area. And had it not been for the keen eye of one of the residents passing and seeing the vehicle, that brought it to the police attention. And secondly, persons have now started to dump garbage on the spot. Old fridges, stoves, everything else is now being dumped on the spot, right in front of our eyes.
Next thing you know, you got dengue.
Exactly.
All right? I think Sonia wanted to speak on the roads. So just before Sonia, just press it.
Thanks, PM. Good evening to everybody. Raw, I think you may know this, but this has been a long-standing in my world, a long-standing problem with respect to roads. There being private roads, what the Ministry of Transport and Works has described as private roads, and the other being agricultural roads. Now, one of my issues, and we have sent in information more than once. Once with the Ruby Plantation, we had even sent in a petition from the residents because their private roads are becoming public. And in my mind, it's only fair that they have something done with it. But your road, for instance, had been classified as agricultural. So what the Ministry of Transport and Works and Water Resources said to me is because it's agricultural, they have to be careful of the type of surface that they put on. The engineers can correct me if I'm wrong. So yours was indeed put in maybe more than once. So the hope is when the relevant personnel visit you that they can give me something a little more positive. Because I remember in the Ruby Plantation, that road was even diverted public road after there was an accident. So in my mind, these private roads are becoming public roads, and they believe that you have a basis to go on. But everything was reported in terms of the Ruby area, the Sanford area. Those were the main parts for these types of roads, but they have been submitted.
My recommendation to you is I know all we really need at this point in time is if you can get some of the scrape off the roads to put into some of these.
You mean the material that is scarified the road with?
If you can get it there, we would smile.
All right, look, Mr. Boyne, Mr. Boyne is hearing you. And do you want to say anything, Mr. Boyne, to give Mr. Eastman satisfaction? But that doesn't necessarily give him satisfaction because
however, yeah.
No, what I'm saying is that when we have the site visit, we can make the determination in terms of what is the best type of treatment for the road. And it's a good point in terms of using the mill material to
mill and pave, to do a mill and pave.
Yeah, or the mill. Either or, but let's have a look at it first because it may need more work than it may even need drainage and all that as well. So.
Or a structural foundation.
Yeah.
So let him look at it, Mr. Eastman, and he will give you his crop over next week. So don't hold it to next week. You understand? But can we say between now and the middle of August you will go and visit? And can you liaise, please, with the Member of Parliament?
And I would like to say I'm a 75-year-old man who's
You
been
don't
retired,
look it, sir.
who has been retired, so I am available. I will give you my number, and you can call me, and most of the time I'm
So
available.
have you now entered the Guinness Book of World Records?
I
To
I
be the
have.
first 75-year-old man to face the new ball. Go forward. Thank you very much,
Thank you
sir.
very much, man.
Next person.
Good evening, Madam Prime Minister, top table, ladies and gentlemen. Madam Prime Minister, I have a few things I'd like to raise. The first one, I haven't even given my name. Francis Eiffel, Sanford, St. Philip. And the first thing is directly coming to you, Prime Minister, as I'm an ex-LIAT employee. And I have a Francis Eiffel. Yeah. I'm just a stone's throw away from Dr. Brown. And I have the unenviable position of being the only LIAT employee in Barbados to not have been able to get a compassionate consideration in terms of severance from LIAT. And as far as I'm aware, you're the only person, I guess, who can make a determination on that.
You give me more power than I have, sir. To begin with, I was under the view that everybody had received. So I can only tell you that if you have not, then send in the letter. What Mr. Morris does, there are three of them? Okay,
Yeah.
Mr. Morris is now saying there are three of you.
Because
So you're not the only one he's saying no.
but I'm the only one here in Barbados.
Okay.
The other two gentlemen, yeah, the other two gentlemen.
So suffice it to say,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
want
there-
you to.
right, there
I
are three of
don't
us.
need you to
Yeah,
advertise your
yeah.
business outside here.
Yeah.
I just need you to talk with Mr. Morris.
Okay.
And that we will do the investigation. If we
Okay.
help over 200 and something people The only reason that 2 or 3 of you could not have been helped is because either the facts were not there or there's some obstacle that I need to understand what it is, but it certainly has not come to me as Minister of Finance. I don't know whether the Minister of International Transport is aware, but certainly I am not. So suffice it to say that give us, as I said, next week is heads of government, Monday and Tuesday. Thursday is a bank holiday. Friday is effectively crop over. So next week is a rough week all round. So give us 2 weeks on it and we'll get back to you, if not sooner.
Well, of course, it's just to know that it is being addressed and we are not left alone.
No, well, as I said, if we have helped 200 or something, or how much ever it is, the fact that you're out has to either be an oversight or a major, major blunder that requires some kind of understanding.
I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
My second issue is with farming, which has been my side hustle for a little bit. And, and the Minister of Agriculture is here now, so I guess I can raise this directly with him. We are encouraged to do more and more farming, but one of the difficulties in Sanford is irrigation water. We do have BADMC water, but we are on the scheduled system, which we only get 3, maybe 2.5 hours of water a day, and it is woefully inadequate if you're trying to do any kind of commercial farming. I was of the view that when they did the work at River, that we would be recipients of that help in that area, but that has not happened. And it is becoming even more critical because when I started farming some 20 years ago, I was told by BADMC that there were too many people on the irrigation system. And yet, I was added, and people continue to be added subsequently. And what it really results in is that even when I am supposed to be getting water for that 2.5 hours, 3 hours a day, the pressure is so low, it's pretty much pointless.
Can I ask a question? How many farmers are up where you are?
I don't have that exact number.
Okay, but there are few?
But there are few, quite a few.
So here's the deal. One of the reasons why we're late this afternoon is that the 2 of the last papers we took this evening related to the Water Authority and the debt for climate swap. In fact, the Inter-American Development Bank board yesterday approved the guarantee from their end. The Green Climate Fund in Korea last week approved it, and the European Investment Bank approved it. The idea is, as you know, that we will upgrade the South Coast Sewage Treatment Plant to tertiary treatment so that the water is cleaner than even the one that falls or goes into the aquifer now, because that is not treated. And that we use that replenishment of the aquifers plus carrying water to St. Philip for people like you in order to get water. Now that doesn't help you for another 18 months or so. So what I want to do is to ask the Minister of Agriculture to tell us how many people we're talking, and then we may have to do some movement of water by some of the tankers and put in some of the large tanks in there that will give you all access in the way that we've tried to do in Mount Poyer, that we can now do with you, even though we have a permanent solution that will be easier on the way for you. In Mount Poyer, in St. Lucie, we're also looking at other water resources up there, but the truth is that we are now coming to accept it in a way that Bajans perhaps have been slow to accept. Barbados is a water-scarce country.
It is.
We are among the 15 most water-scarce countries out of almost 200 countries in the world. Okay? It therefore means that we have to treat the water differently with respect to how we use it and how we conserve it. By the same token, we have to develop more climate-resilient agriculture. And that is why I'm working with the minister now, and I'll let him talk about the climate resilient stuff. Because for all who are doing open field, we may have to be able to create opportunities for some of you to do some greenhouse farming in order to be able to control, because we are in what I call the season of superlatives. So you can as easy have a drought as you can as easy have flooding. And in both instances, you don't even need floods for the pests to take over properly after heavy rain. Not true?
Yeah, I know.
And once that happens, your yield is significantly affected. So Indar, please.
Yeah, thank you, Prime Minister, and perhaps I would start from where you left off. But first of all, I want to thank you for the question. I think it's very important for everybody to understand the challenges we're facing as it relates to the supply of water for farmers. I have Mr. Innes standing here next to me, and he would explain to you as well the reason why they had to do the water rationing. The reality that we face is that these droughts are prolonged. And whilst it is true, sometimes we are getting rain, we are not getting the consistency that you farmers would like. So we do, in order for us to be able to supply everybody with water, and at the same time don't go as far till you start to get into where the water then goes into salinity and stuff like that. We have to ration it. Whenever it's drawn to my attention, I speak to the BADMC to see how we can work with you farmers. We started a program, like the Prime Minister rightfully pointed out, at Mount Poyer, where we were actually trucking water to the people. But of course, that also comes with its challenges as well, because you have to have the availability of trucks, etc. So all around, the water issue is really a major problem for us in agriculture. We are working with it. When we put the reservoir in that river, that was to help the farmers there, because the farmers downstream at river weren't getting water at all. Prime Minister can tell the guy who stood up in front of her and cried because of all his crops were dying. We had to make sure we put that system there. We're going to make sure that we look for other solutions, but as soon as we get the water being sent to St. Philip, I think that will ease the pressure. In the short term, I'm going to let Mr. Innes speak to see how we can come out, visit, and see how we can help you.
Thank you, Minister. So yes, definitely our challenge at the moment is well levels, and that's part of the reason for the rationing and the rotation that you're describing. What we are going to be working towards is actually bringing additional capacity into that area, the medium-term proposal that is being discussed. I think in the short term, it is really how can we help to improve your pressure during those 2 to 3 hours. And I think that's where we want to try to discuss and have a conversation with you. So what I would love to do is actually come visit and just see if we can identify how many people are on your particular stretch of the irrigation network, and to try to see what can be done.
Yeah, that would definitely be great, because when I got put on the system, I actually had to put down about a quarter mile of piping at my own expense. And since then, at least 1, 2, 3 or 4 farmers have been connected to that. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah. And
What I will say is please do that as soon as possible, and then liaise with us and Water Authority so that we can see how we can, if it is possible, to be able to do some tanking of water with respect to things. But I also want you to check, and we'll check groves to see whether there's any excess capacity at groves too. All right? But we know that for sure the treatment plant upgrade will be dedicated to bringing water to St. Philip. And in fact, one of the commitments that we just had to agree to with the IDB and the EIB is that there will be sufficient demand from St. Philip farmers. So it is almost as if, as I said less than 2 hours ago, we were discussing this, and it is fortuitous that you are here to say that there is more than enough. There are others like you who need the water in order to justify the investment that we're making. One of the things, and let me just use the opportunity to explain to everybody what it is we're doing. We're buying back 375 million US of our debt. And we are reissuing it with the help of the European Investment Bank and the Inter-American Development Bank and the Green Climate Fund at a lower interest rate than what we are paying now today. The savings that we get will come, we hope, to be around 140 million US dollars that will allow us to build out, $140 million, so I don't know if it's US, that will allow us to build out the treatment plant. And then on top of that, the GCF is also giving us a grant of 40 million US dollars. So the excess money, hey Santia, the excess money that we have or will have from it will also be used to help the water authority deal with what we call non-revenue water, in other words, burst pipes, and fixing them, as well as other wastewater solutions. So that will make a huge, huge difference to our ability, one, to meet your needs, two, to not have to deal with the outfall. You saw what happened when we had Hurricane Beryl. Luckily, the cabinet made the decision 5.5 years ago, 6 years ago, that we needed redundancy. And we put in 2 pipes. If we hadn't put in 2 pipes and the 8-inch pipe went and that was the only pipe, what would have happened? All on the ground. So we put in 2 pipes. But this treatment now will obviate the need for us to do that. So I just wanted to explain, but I hear you, I feel you, and know that that is still 18 months, 20 months away, because we're now in the process of choosing the persons to do the project based on who bid, who tendered, and we are also, as I said, we've gotten through the last week and this week, all of the guarantees. So I would imagine by September, October, we should be in a position then to be able to move forward with getting all of the legal and financial close behind us so that the project can start. So in the interim, Mr. Innes, report back to us and we take it from there. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I just...
One more? We got a lot of people, so I don't want...
just one more. And Barbados Water Authority, we are also suffering from discolored water in Sanford. The road I am down on is in a very old pipe. So they actually put a hydrant in right in front of my house, which was used to flush the pipe, but that has not been done in a very long time. So I've had to be...
Did it help when they did it?
Yes, it does help.
So
help.
let us get them to come up and do that for you.
Yeah.
But to the bigger problem, we have the old pipes across the entire island.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why the surplus money from that same project will go in terms of additional grant funds will go over a 5-year period every year. It will help us with the other money that government is putting and in some instances borrowing in order to be able to do the replacement of mains. We got the problem in St. Lucie, St. Peter.
Right.
We got it in St. John and St. George on the border from Bowmanston. And we got it in St. Philip. Okay? So thank you very much,
Thank
sir.
you very much.
All the
Thank
best.
Hi, Francis. Take care, man.
The gentleman who was supposed to be first, number 1, can you please let him come? Mr. Morris is showing me that the weekly flushing schedule should happen, but it has not happened in the case of Sanford. So for areas Crane Haven, Crane Development, Breezy Hills, Sandy Hills, Stanford, and Johnson Development. So we need to follow up with the Water Authority to remind them that they have not gone by him as well. Thank you. Who's next?
He'll talk to him there directly.
Okay. Who's next, ma'am?
Good evening, Madam Prime Minister, Attorney General, Deputy Prime Minister, Minister Dugate, Minister Weir, Minister McConney, Minister, Madam Member of Parliament Brown. My name is Elaine Gooding, and I live at Sanford's. Sanford's is going to be present here tonight in many cases. With Brother Francis, it was alluded that there will be a site visit, and I wish to be included in that site visit because right next to my home, there is a track that goes down, and that is marl and dirt. So I want to know whether something can be done in relation to
Okay.
that.
Just before DPM came, Mr. Boyne would have our first speaker asked about some roads in Sanford and also a bushy lot. And we've agreed that not next week, but between now and the middle of August, given crop over intervention, that y'all will visit. And clearly, the Sonia will be there, as well as Mr. Eastman. I know Ms. Gooden wants to be present as
To be
well.
included.
Okay?
Apart from, I have 3 matters in particular, and the last one I will deal with, I will crave your indulgence. The other one relates to the same environmental problems. There is environmental problems to which I would have spoken to 6 Roads and also the Ministry of Health. There is a resident who collects bottles. The place is overgrown. There are a lot of mosquitoes, rats, and everything that is invading my property. Nothing has been done, and it has been going on for some while. So maybe if you all intervene next to me on the main road, yes, and nothing has been done.
So you spoke to public health at 6 Roads?
I didn't write. I should have written, but
Yeah.
I
No
spoke.
problem. We'll follow up.
Again,
There's a
between-
private residence as opposed to a lot that's empty.
as opposed to a lot is empty. And they have overgrown trees on their premises that has come over on mine. And then there's one of these big trees, I don't know what you call it, but it is also attaching to the telephone wires and stuff that I've spoken to the lady about it, and she says she will deal with it when she feels like. So, I don't know. Second thing is the road between King George V Memorial Park and Ruby, Hildesteen School. It is overgrown. When it rains, like what the gentleman who spoke first, when it rains, the water settles between the district hospital and the Hildesteen School, and you cannot pass. Something needs to be done to that road. It's been like that for time immemorial. Also, all the trees have overgrown and it's into the road, and you cannot, when you're driving, you cannot, or walking, you cannot pass there without coming into the middle road, which is dangerous. I don't know whether Minister McConney and Brown knows about that, but that way it is not your constituency.
No,
but
we will deal with it. It's all once and Philip, so we'll deal with it. And Santia is here now, and Mr. Boyne, and we're making notes. Okay?
Okay. Now, the other issue is with the crowding during school terms, the crowding traffic. Drivers block the road between Hildesteen School and Mr. Maxwell's premises. They stop as they like across the road. You cannot pass. They block the road throughout the school term, both morning and evenings. Something needs to be done about that. District C was advised. Nothing has been done. They continue to do it. And my last point, which I crave your indulgence because you all might want to tell me that I know better, but this is a situation where a lady is suffering from dementia. She is about 88, 89 years old. An application was made under the Mental Health Act, an urgent application. It has not yet been heard. But in the meanwhile, the lady has to call in. She does not work because of COVID. This is the principal or the primary caregiver. She does not work. She has not been working since 2018, 2019.
Who is not working? The primary caregiver?
The primary caregiver. The patient is about 88 years old. She does not get a pension because she cannot get the pension from National Insurance. She cannot write. Hence, the matter was referred to the High Court. It is not urgent because it has been adjourned now from ever since April down to September or beyond. National insurance, you cannot hear from people when you call. When you call, you leave numbers.
But
no,
is she entitled to national insurance? Because I got the impression from you that she
was
didn't
getting
contribute.
a non-contributory
Right,
pension,
so therefore she's
which
not
has
entitled.
stopped since January
But why?
because she suffers from dementia and she cannot write. She does not have an
Hold on,
account.
Sonia wants to speak.
Hi, did you give me, if you have a little time after, please give me the name that I could try to sort it out. I don't think you ever told me the name before.
I did no.
So
no,
if
no,
you, I
no.
would get the name from you and sort it out.
Okay,
Yeah.
but my primary reason, because when you find persons, they say that people are treating the elderly indifferently, they're not taking care of them. I had that problem with my mother. I was home from 2018. I was looking for my mother to live to 100, but unfortunately she died at 90, shy of 96. But I would have loved for her to live to 100. And people do not really understand when you love a parent and when you go out of your way to do things for that parent. This woman does not work. She has to bring in somebody to assist and pay more than what the pension.
Let us, we don't take personal complaints here, Ms. Gooden. So let us,
this is what I
hold on, between speaking with Sonia and Roy, we will then follow up and see what we can. Clearly, if the matter is urgent and the court has adjourned it till September, AG, there must be a way of getting it before the judge
court is
on
on
an
recess
urgent
in August.
application. There must be a way of getting it before or brought back before a judge on an urgent application. Just work with us, okay? But we can resolve it here.
I know,
And
but
we
this
have made a very clear rule in 3 years not to take personal situations and personal circumstances in public. But I can assure you that when we have the information, we will follow through where we can.
This is the reason why I was asked to crave your indulgence, because I want to know, in circumstances when persons do not have any money, they have to pay a lawyer to go to court.
That is exactly why I'm saying that in this country, there's a good old saying that you and I get bring up on. If you sell everything you got to buy everything you need. So work with us. Let us see how we can get her situation resolved. The first thing that piques my attention is why she no longer gets a pension since January. It does not make sense to me. If you were receiving a non-contributory pension, there would have to be some extraordinary reason why, and Ms. Tudor is here from NIS, there would have to be some extraordinary reason involving fraud that had stopped. That government departments make mistakes, it happens all the time. It has happened in the past, it will happen in the future because they're not perfect. But once we know about it, then it forces us to investigate and try to see how we can resolve the matter. So work with us on this one, please.
Ma'am, I crave your indulgence because what I wanted to ask was whether there was anything, forget about her case specifically, whether when there is a person who is indigent, who cannot pay for anything, whether
that is where the Ministry of People Empowerment will come in and try to work both with formal structures and informal structures to be able to get it done. AG, is there any other mechanism at law that allows the person to go? We work through the social agencies, social sector agencies. I think, Ms. Gooden, what the public does not know is that you spent how many decades as a legal secretary? And therefore, you are really speaking almost as a quasi-lawyer. But the truth is that you also know that lawyers do pro bono work all the time in a small society, and we need to encourage them to continue to do so First thing I learned when I practice is Peter must pay for Paul. And you got to help people where you can, especially when the circumstances demand it. Who's next?
Good night, Madam Prime Minister, members of Cabinet, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ashton Pollard, and I live at 95 Mangrove Park, St. Philip. I am a former worker of CARDI, Caribbean Agriculture Research Development Institute, and I'm here on behalf of 6 other colleagues of mine with a heavy heart and bad treatment that was received from CARDI. We worked hard in the good old days of CARDI. Pardon? Yeah, okay. We worked hard in the good days of CARDI. In the field, in the lab, and we did not get any proper payment, and we produced work. When I look around today, I can see the pigeon peas that you all eat when the year come. We work with them. We work with the cassava program. We work with the iron blast disease, moth borer and sugarcane. You name it, we work with it. Training technicians up and down the islands, and here in Barbados, Cape Hill, we work with them. We enjoyed the work. The money was small, but we took comfort in what we did. Now, this year is 16 years that I am not in the employment of CARDI. This year is also 22 years that we did not receive money back pay, not severance or anything like that, back pay. We used to be with the Barbados Workers Union, that was the bargaining agent for us. And CARDI has agreed 2002 to 2004 that they owed the workers money. That document was signed off by Saroy, agreed to by the executive director of CARDI at the time, and it was also sanctioned by the chief labor officer. 2002, 2004. Then there's another sanction, 2005 to 2007. And every time you have a little word with CARDI, spoke back, this thing is the next thing. Recently, only this week, 2 of the members received money retired, but these were 2 retired members. The others were not retired. We were made redundant because the lab was closed. It became a sick building problem, and I had to get rid of it. So what I'm here to do, and Madam Prime Minister, I have taken some orders from my colleagues, and what they're telling me to do is not to come back without we hear something positive from you.
I can't help you.
The ball is in your court.
What the most I can tell you is that I'm going to investigate.
Okay.
Because CARDI is not a government of Barbados institution. CARDI is a CARICOM or regional institution, let me put it that way. And suffice it to say that there's heads of government next week, and I will certainly ask the Secretariat to investigate it for me. I will also, I believe the Minister of Agriculture has a role with respect to Cardi, and I will also ask him to investigate. So if that equates to positive news, then you are blessed. But I can't tell you that which, and if you know me well enough, you know I'm not going to tell you something that I can't prove or don't know directly.
Fair enough. But
It certainly sounds highly unreasonable, and I feel the pain because I know that they got some cases languishing about in court for 16 and 20 years, and I feel that that's wrong too. So I would have to apply equal judgment with respect to Cardi. But suffice it to say that if it is true, and if Cardi has paid some of the money this week, payment of a debt is acknowledgement of the debt. So that may be the best news you could come with your colleagues, for your colleagues with.
But let me say that a precedent was set. I have seen Cardi unable to pay under a UNAFA BLP government, under Minister Wood, where Cardi had suffered about 5 or 6 workers and didn't have the ability to pay. But the government...
I hear you, sir. And Mr. Pollard,
yes,
the
please.
message is loud and clear. There are 23 other people after you. The people who are at this head table have been going since 9:30 this morning.
Fair enough.
So I am going to have to exercise a level of discipline from the chair this evening. But I think we have enough information that we can certainly investigate and begin. And may I remind you for the record that we would also have assisted people at Liat, for example, where there was no obligation so to do. But equally, for every cent that we put there is a cent less that we can put here. You understand? So our first priority is to get Cardi, who found money to pay 2 people this week, to pay the other people it owes, if the case that you have made is a case that they agree with. And so long, as I said, some people have been paid, part payment of a debt,
I have the
is
correspondence.
acknowledgement of the debt. So
I have all the
just submit everything to Mr. Morris, copies of it, and let us investigate and give us a few weeks, as I said. Okay? Who's next?
Michael Ray, St. Philip South.
How are you, sir?
Madam Prime Minister.
How are you?
I'm fine. Madam Prime Minister, other
Part
members.
of St. Philip South, address?
You want my address?
Address.
Ruby Park, St. Philip.
Thank you.
Yeah, Madam Prime Minister, members of the Cabinet, spokespersons for the various government ministries, ladies and gentlemen, I want to start with an observation and give a suggestion, if I could crave your indulgence. The last time I was here, I was interrupted, and I brought back a number of things that I wanted to say that I didn't say. I'm going to be very brief tonight. I would really like to complete what I have to say and get the responses if this is okay. All right. First of all, my main concern is that I'm not speaking for Michael Ray. I'm speaking for people from Moncrief to Mangrove, from Foul Bay to Sergeant's Park, beyond, Harlington, Headings. I'm speaking for some of these people. So it's not me alone. These are none of my basic concerns. So I'll rush them through, and I suppose we'll get some responses. I want to start with that roundabout in 6 roads. Every time it drizzles, it's flooded. Need to do something about that. Traffic flow. There's no need in Barbados, as far as I see it. But I am not a traffic manager, but I was living long enough to know that you don't swerve in and out on a normal road. You have people driving on the left side of the road, have to come out into the right side of the road and continue straight down. To me, that's nonsense. Anybody who drives on the left side of the road in Barbados and reaching a roundabout, and they go on the right side, they should be turning right and or going around the roundabout. There's no need for anybody to go in the right side of the road, approaching a roundabout, and then keep straight ahead. That is my thing, but the experts know it, so let them carry on. No, the experts, but that's just a person
the acting
who...
CTO's specialty is traffic. So when you finish, he will speak. When you finish, you keep going.
Right. The forecross at Graves Hill, where a traffic manager or whoever decided that all 4 people coming from those 4 junctions should stop. Got a problem with that. But you know what was really bad about that? That at any time, 4 vehicles could reach that junction at the same time. And everybody want to move off first. That junction needs traffic lights. Just like the junction up at Beulah, that needs traffic lights. Manholes. Mill and pave, beautiful, beautiful. But you know what? When you're driving, coming up through 4 Square, you call, he's on the road, you know, and other roads too, you know. Why can't that road be paved? Wait on it, and get some concrete and lift that up, and let come back there. Put caution tape.
I am with you, Mr. Ray.
You're with me?
I said I want
you.
manhole police.
Thank you. All right. There are roads in Barbados, and I'm speaking specifically as a resident of St. Philip for almost all but 80 years of my life. I am not a young man. I am a pensioner. Now, we have a road from 6 roads going up to Beulah. And the only house, well, they got about 3 or 4 churches off the road. But they only put lights in residential areas. There's a whole, I poor fella, that's why I don't drive at night. Other than tonight, when I leave here, I can go out, drive home. But you can't, these bright lights you have, sorry about that. My apologies. We need to have luminescent paint on those, so I know when I can't go there. So when the fellas flick on the bright lights, I scrambling. Or cat eyes. They got something called cat eyes. Right? I put them there so they would know I still in line. You know? All right? I can soon finish. And this is real serious. This is real serious. I think they had a fire in St. Philip recently, like 2 months ago. And somebody said if a fire station was closer. We have a fire station that I hear you can't move the things from the airport. That is an essential service or whatever provisions and regulations control that. But 6 roads, St. Philip, for that matter, is the biggest growing parish in Barbados. PA 6,000 and something now. St. James is still SA something. St. Philip, and we don't have a fire station in St. Philip, and you got Mr. Byner's place there, and Chaffet, and somebody building a big building down here, and somebody want to go over near 4 roads. We need a fire station in St. Philip, and this has been overdue for too long. This thing, but we gotta wait for something to come from 4 roads in St. John. We need the police station closer too. We need a police station, we need a fire station. And I can keep talking about it until it's done. All right? We also need...
How many more? Because I got 22 more people after you.
Right.
But I can also answer you quickly
I don't
before
want
Santia does.
me. I don't want to curtail me.
I know, but I also want 22 people to talk.
Well, give me some grace. Give me some grace
for
the last time. Thank you.
Alerting you.
All right. But I soon finish. There needs to be a decentralization of the ambulance service. I have an idea, but again, I am no medical expert, no risk management person, but I got a little common sense. Look, don't let the ambulances leave QEH and drive to Marlow, Marchfield, all them places, and drive back to put them at the polyclinics. So that fella in Marchfield sick, come from here and get straight to the hospital. A fella in Lemon Arbor, you got some place by the same police, use that as a bay and let move the ambulances out to these places and let them make a quicker trip and save a few lives rather than driving up and down. All right? Speed humps. They've got about 4 or 5 residential areas where I see speed humps. I asked a St. Philip South representative about putting speed humps in the development that I live in. There's a road that runs from what we call a main road straight through another development and straight through my development. Buses pass through there and they come through there driving fast in a hurry to get back to town. I don't know when in a hurry to go. And they have people living, people that just walk with canes and got wheelchairs. Why it is that Amity Lodge, Pine Gardens, Rendezvous Terrace, and all these and Coverley villages have speed humps, and a man look at me and tell me, you go write a letter and go and walk about and let people sign it to agree to that's foolishness. Put some speed humps, and I will show you where to put them, because I live out there. And, so I would like that done. Pedestrian crossings. Pedestrian crossings spring up overnight. So I driving on roads that I drive for the last 70 years of my, not 70, but 60 years of my life. And then I realized, yeah, there's a pedestrian crossing here. If we boast about being a developed country and a country that want to compete and want to encourage people to come, I'll get some automated lights when they get here by here every day. Almost every day is passed through here. And the children coming off the road and going to, and anyhow, random, ad hoc, call it where you like. Put a light, stop.
Got
go.
you, Mr. Ray. We got it. Any more?
Pedestrian crossing is my last one, man.
Okay, don't move, don't move. I entirely agree with you on the Civic Center. Indeed, the AG would tell you that prior to coming in fact, when we were last in office, we had discussed the possibility of moving a Civic Center down here. It is now in the planning again. And we need to look at not just the fire station. District C made sense when you had to have line of sight overlooking a parish. But Six Roads is the center of activity in St. Philip. And therefore, once we can find the appropriate site, we want to be able to deal with it and have the planning done for that, the fire station, etc.
Prime Minister.
With respect to the ambulances, I agree entirely with you again. We were the ones who put it at Arch Hall, and therefore there's no fire station in St. Philip, as you pointed out, but it is something that we can raise with the ambulance service about having one temporarily located at the polyclinic. Excuse me.
This should be a national thing, Prime Minister.
Yeah, but let's deal with parish by parish. You understand? But we have at, what you call it, Arch Hall. Thank you. So we know we have a number of ambulances, but we're also trying to lift up what we can do, and there are a lot more private ones too, that we can even work with some of them for deployment, but we need to have the discussion with them. I will ask the Deputy Prime Minister now to address the 95% of the rest of what you said, which all related to traffic or road traffic or speed humps or pedestrian. Okay?
And the road going up here that should not be patched all the time is a joking board. That the road going to here by the market that links Six Roads to Congo Road, Bushy Park. That is a joking board. My mother would have used that 50, 60 years ago. Scrubbing clothes. It needs to be milled and paved, as you all call it. Sorry about the all. My apologies, ma'am. My apologies.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. And let me just say, I do enjoy your contributions, and I do take note of your concerns in relation to roads and certainly traffic, as when you write in the newspaper. As it relates to the issue of the cat eyes, I can tell you that we've just been able to secure a quantity of glue to be able to put down some cat eyes that we've had in the ministry for a while. So you're going to start to see the rollout of a number of the cat eyes being placed strategically across the island. We've primarily started with the roads that we would have recently done the mill and pave on. But of course, as we get certain concerns from the general public, we will certainly be addressing across the various districts a number of the concerns that have been raised by residents as well. As it relates to the speed humps in residential areas, what is interesting is that every time we pave a road, there's always a request for people to have speed bumps put in. And I would want to take this opportunity, while I agree that there are some areas in particular that do require the speed humps, I think there needs to be a caution to road users to slow down. Because in many of these districts, there are obviously the speeds that the persons are exceeding in many cases. And I think that we have to caution persons to certainly drive a little slower in a number of these residential areas, because it is almost impossible to put speed humps in every residential district. So I think it is really a caution to Barbadians to use the roads a little bit better as well. The other issue that you raised was in relation to manholes. As PM has said, we recognize that this was a major problem when we sought to do the mill and pave programs across the country. And many of the roads, it was almost an afterthought in terms of completing the manholes. So what we've done on this recent mill and pave program is, first of all, get the mill and pave completed, and then have the contractors go back in and do not only manholes, but also the digging of wells and addressing the areas of drainage as well. So this program is a bit more comprehensive than you've seen before. Obviously, there are areas where, they've been neglected for many years, and the various depots have been making a tally of where we need to go in and pretty much correct them. So I've noted your concerns in relation to that. I'll ask Mr. Bowen perhaps to just address the issue of the traffic concerns at the various roundabouts and the flow of traffic at, in particular, the 6 Road roundabout, where we would have made some changes recently.
I could sit. Thank you. Thank you.
Relative to the roundabout at 6 Roads, recently that configuration was changed. What pertained there previously on a number of the approach arms, there were different ways to utilize that junction. Can't remember all of the different, but the point is, one time in left lane you could turn, you could go straight, and another arm, left lane, you could only go left. So what we wanted to do was to standardize all of the approaches so that, to make it easier for motorists on the approaches, so that they can understand, they don't have to study and determine, how do I use this? How do I use this? It is one standardized way to approach the roundabout. Another reason also that we would have looked at this, in terms of when you design a roundabout, I know it was mentioned by, I can't remember the name of the guy, I can't remember your name, but Ray. Yeah, Michael. When you normally would approach a signalized junction or all other junctions, yes, normally we would have in the right lane, you turn right, and in the other lane, you would go straight or left. However, with a roundabout, when you design a roundabout, you want to max, there's that central island, and you want to force most of the motorists going straight or going around the roundabout to go, essentially to negotiate that roundabout. And one of the reasons for, one of the great uses of a roundabout, it slows people down, right? A roundabout slows people down. When you're in that right lane, you're forced to negotiate that circle. If we allow too many people on the left lane, into the left lane to go straight, you can actually, in some cases, drive through that roundabout at nearly maximum speed. Well, in the right lane, you're forced to slow down, right? You must negotiate it. You must negotiate it. And that is one of the reasons why we would also shift it more towards that type of a design. It's called deflection. What you're forced to do, you're forced to deflect and slow down to negotiate the roundabout. So it was more practical, a more practical sense to have it that way, so as to ensure a person slow down. One of the greatest issues in terms of fatalities is always speed. So with the roundabout, you slow the persons down so that you can negotiate negotiate it, right?
Thank you, Santia.
Thank you, Jason. And I just wanted to mention, Mr. Ray, the road that you were speaking about, Congo Road, that is also on our list under the CAF program, where we've just sent out the tender for the designs to be done. I know this is a road that many of the St. Philip residents have been complaining about, and also Ruby to Fairfield as well. So we actually closed the tender today, so those two are going to start. And I know there are several more in St. Philip that we have received complaints about, but as you can appreciate, we're trying to touch as many parishes as we possibly can. And of course, we've given some attention to St. Philip on this occasion. All right?
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, good evening, everybody. Say, esteemed ladies and gentlemen. I'm from Gainswick Gardens, and we have a
What's the name, sir?
Carlisle Jones.
Sorry?
Carlisle Jones. Carlyle Jones.
Gemswick Gardens.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Right. So we have a health and environmental issue over there, whereby the recreational facility was brought into disrepute by a mechanic that lives 2 avenues away from this area. Right? This parcel of land is looked after by about four of us. Right? And we have it in a pristine condition. And this guy started to park these vehicles, double cabins, because he specializes in double cabins. And right now, all these double cabins are covered with bush. Seriously, I got the pictures on my phone. Right? And I spoke to him, and he said, okay, but he never moved. So I went through the channels, like I call town planning. Town planning said, well, as long as he doesn't have a structure, we can't do him anything. I said, well, cool. I went to the Ministry of Health, and they told me, well, boy, you got to go to environmental protection. That's not the issue. So I went to environmental protection. Environmental protection, they came a month or two after I laid the case to them. So they came and they looked at the situation, and they gave the guy 6 weeks to move. That was in 2022 March, and this is July 2024, and the man never moved a muscle. The vans are still there, the bush grew right over them.
Not a problem, sir.
Eh?
Mr. Morris, arrange for me to do the site visit, please.
Okay.
Immediately after crop over with environmental health. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Good evening. Tony Allen from Fortescue St. Philip. Now, I have several points, so I'm going to try to be as succinct as possible. My first point is, now there has been a lot of talk about increasing Barbados' population by allowing others to migrate to Barbados. But of particular concern to me is what is being done to ensure that Barbadians, namely my contemporaries, that spent time, resources at university for undergraduate and postgraduate degrees to be gainfully employed in this country.
What's your name, please?
Tony Allen.
T-O-N-I?
Yes.
Aline?
Yes.
And where you live? What's happening, Mr. Phillip? Yeah, but she's going to need the mic, though. Use it again. Yeah.
Fortescue St. Philip.
Okay. Continue. You want to know about people getting employment?
Yes. So I asked that.
What area is this?
Pardon?
What area are you speaking about?
Generally, well, for my contemporaries, me specifically, I have a degree in computer science and a master's in electronic commerce. Now, to date, I have had several interviews, submitted over 50 applications, and at 2 of these interviews was told that I should change my name if I'm going to get a job in this country.
Why?
Yes. I do not know why, but that's why I was told.
Which part is offensive?
Which part is offensive?
Yeah. That would cause them to say you should change your name.
I don't know. I presented myself at the interview because clearly
Related
I was
to you, Rosemary?
qualified.
Huh? She related to you? Oh, so that's, wait, let me tell you. That's the biggest roll of that I have heard in a long time. Because Miss Aline knows that whenever she's ready to call me, she can call me. Not true? But I don't know why you should change your name, because rather than that, we actually have a shortage of skills in a number of areas across the country. So please, let us see public and private sector, and let us see. But I can give you the assurance. In fact, the problem that I have is that the people in the Labour Party feel that I help more Democratic Labour Party people than I help Barbados Labour Party people. So, you see what? So I have tried to have an even and level playing field. So, look, that can't be the reason. So let me get the CV and let's see between yourself and others, public and private sector, what can happen.
Well,
All
I
right?
could only communicate what I was told.
Well, whoever tell you so, I'm sure that if they told you something that's very offensive, you won't repeat it either. So tell the person to keep that in the head because the evidence does not support that. Okay?
Noted. Okay. So then my other question is, so last year, October, parents...
Ms. Tudor, tell them that you ran in my constituency for the Democratic Labour Party and you are now the head of the NIS in Barbados.
Cat looking always dog up. But moving on. So last year, September, October, parents were told to submit their receipts to get a rebate for the school books. There's another school year. I have not received my rebate.
Ministry of Education, right next to you, look who was sitting to you. You understand? So I suggest
would have followed the
we
channels.
we don't take personal issues here up front. So I don't want you to have to reveal any more personal issues. The lady that's sitting, right next to you is the lady that you need to be able to speak to on that. Okay?
Moving
Her
on.
name is she is the Chief Education Officer.
I'm
so
well
she's
aware.
not just exactly.
Dr. Archer taught me at Common Mirror, so I'm well
so
aware.
all the more reason why you can speak to her.
Okay, so moving on. Now, in Fortescue, there are several wells that are not covered. Specifically in my street, there are 3. Now, we have children who are active and play outside. And you have to tell them that even if a car is coming, the natural response is to go to the side of the road. I have to tell my children, do not do that. The cars would have to come around you. There are 3 wells in our street alone that are not covered, and one of them, the top of it has already fallen in. And some of the residents cleared the grass from off of it and marked it in the road. And this is over 2 years that I have been back and forth with the Ministry of Public Works trying to get this fixed. Years ago, there was a gentleman by the name of Apple that I would have called when there was a well in front of our house that needed fixing. And within a week, he came and looked. And by the end of the month, it was fixed. God rest his soul, he's not here. So now this is years I have been trying to get these wells covered. Now, to Fortescue on College Savannah, there's 1 entrance. 4 times this year that I am aware of, there was either an accident or a fire or Light and Power had to do something, and you could not get in and out of Fortescue. If there's a fire or a medical emergency, you can't get in or out. Years ago, there was a road, and I'm talking about 30 years ago, there was a road that ran up to Codrington from Concept Bay. But when that road was resurfaced, the newer road now is about 2 to 3 feet higher than where the old road was, so obviously people were not traversing it, and it is overgrown. We desperately need another entrance into Fortescue because when there's an issue on that road, you can't get in or out. Now, further up the road, the bridge at Supers has been falling in. There's a barrel there that was placed to alert people that there's a pothole. Sometimes it get hit, it get moved. Sometimes people fall in it, especially if you do not know the road. People have fallen into that hole. It needs to be fixed quickly because it has reduced the road to one lane of traffic. Now, buses. The Sergeant Street bus comes down into Fortescue Development. Several of these bus drivers do not finish the route. Last term, my daughter had to walk, and just to give you an idea of the distance, from Emerald City to roughly Sunbury Plantation at sunset to get home because the bus stopped at the top and tell her that they may go no further, and she got to walk down. Pardon me? The bus. This specifically would have been a TAP bus and not a transport board bus necessarily. They do not always come down in the development, and they're forcing people to walk. And this is a good distance to walk.
And you have the numbers?
Pardon me?
You have the numbers?
No, I would have called transport board the same time when my daughter came
But
home.
in future, just y'all keep a list of the numbers for us.
The bus numbers?
Yes, because the people are operating under license, and the license is attached to a route. If you're not finishing the route, what have you done?
Okay.
You're breaching the license. So that's what I'm saying. Just let us have the numbers, and we go forward on that. But I know that there are too many complaints coming, and I have asked that, Santiago, that we have some kind of meeting with them, because I started the meeting by saying with the responsibility, with the right to ownership comes responsibility. With the right to a license, you got responsibility to service people. And when you do it, who are you hurting? You're hurting the old lady that can't walk with the 2 bags of groceries down to the end because you're asking her now to walk a mile or a half a mile. Can't work. And in the case of your daughter, as you said, if it is at night, you're putting people exposed in circumstances where people got on the bus with the implicit understanding that this is the route that the bus must run. The other matters pertaining to MTW, Santi will speak to when you finish.
Okay. And, all right, so this is also a road issue. Now, there's an avenue, Coco de Mir Avenue, that has been overgrown with bush to the point that you can't even drive through with your car. Now, in recent times, a bobcat came to clear the road. However, he stopped short of the corner that is overgrown. So there's a house on the corner and it's overgrown with bush and wild trees. So when you come to that junction, you can't see anything that's coming down. So when you come out on that road, you have to blow your horn and hope that whoever it is going to stop, because you can't see them. They could only hear you. Yeah? And my final point would be for education. Well, a question. I want...
Which junction was that just now?
Pardon?
Which junction was that you can't see?
Coco de Mir Avenue.
What's that?
Coco de Mir Avenue.
C-O-C-O?
D-E-M-E, Avenue. So they cleared the entire section of that road except the corner lot, which is overgrown.
And that's what stops you from seeing what's coming.
Yeah, you can't see around the corner. You can't see what's coming down.
As I said, the AG, that's one of the reasons we went to Parliament yesterday, but we referred it to the Standing Committee on Social and Environmental Matters to be able to deal with all these overgrown lots, because people own lots and would not take care of them. And they either constitute a public health nuisance, a public safety nuisance, or in this particular instance, the safety is not crime, but it is traffic.
Okay. So my question is now, with regards to the poles on the roads, is this something that will come under the poles that the lights are on? Because for the last 3 years, I have been trying to get a pole changed because it is leaning precariously. Now, fortunately, in the last 18 months, the gentleman I spoke at Light and Power, he came out, he saw it, and a pole was put down to replace it from Light and Power. However, the pole that is the problem is still there. And after frequent calls, they're saying, oh, it anchored in the ground, so it ain't gonna fall over. The degree of lean has increased since barrel. And the wild vines growing up on it now that you can't even see the number on it. So it's only going to take a high wind, and the winds were very high today. It's only going to take a high wind for that to fall over on somebody's car or one of the children that are outside running around. Because with our kids are outside a lot. They don't spend time indoors in the day. And this is a very dangerous thing to have this pole hanging across the road.
I got Mr. Morris to speak to Light and Power. All right, thank you, my dear.
One more question.
You know you got 21 people behind you.
I know, one more question.
I got public servants here too.
One more question.
Go ahead.
It doesn't have to be answered now, in detail, but I need to know what is happening with education reform. I tutor children.
We will be speaking to that in a little while, in a few weeks after crop over.
Okay, because I tutor children in reading, and I'm having too many children in class 3 and 4 coming to me
read properly.
Reading at infants A or lower levels.
The chief education officer will tell you that she has a team of people now in another Caribbean country They're about to take on a literacy program here that will be used across all primary schools. Kay will tell you and expand on that. So you are sharing the same concerns we have. And that's why they're taking action on it now. And with numeracy, with mathematics, we're also in conversation with Delaware State University with respect to the training of our math teachers. Okay?
Awesome. Okay. Thank you.
That sounds as though you want to be a teacher.
Tony, just before you say, just in response to your queries, in relation to Fortescue, I think the team has heard you in terms of being able to go and do a site visit there just to see if we can actually find the alternative route. As it relates to the areas, I think PM addressed it in terms of the overgrowth of the bush on the lots. Obviously, we need to determine whether it's private or public.
That one is private.
It's private, okay. So that would be taken care of under the new legislation that we've just been able to lay on Tuesday. As it relates to the TAP program, this is an issue that keeps coming up on Parish Speaks. And what we've done in the last few weeks, we've met with the Transport Board and Transport Authority to take a look at the entire system because, as Senior Minister would tell you, what was introduced in his time is now turning into something which is becoming a nightmare for, in particular, elderly Barbadians and people who generally, legitimately, are trying to get to their various destinations. So we started to review the contracts. Very shortly, we will have a meeting with the various TAP associations. They've already been put on notice, but the intention is to review the entire system because what may have worked a few years ago clearly needs to be revamped. And what I would encourage people in the interim to do, as PM has said, is if you have information regarding persons who have not completed the routes, please contact the Transport Board. Let us know which vehicles those are and allow us to be able to use our own intelligence to figure out what is actually happening on those routes and to deal with the persons based on the contract that we would have entered into with them. So it does rely on the public to feed us that information to help us to determine how we will take the necessary steps to address it as well.
Okay.
Right?
Okay, will do.
Thank you.
I think, Sonia, you wanted to say something about Fortescue and the entrance, the other entrance?
Yeah, well, a little bit. I know there is a, what we will call it, a tract. The problem is it is over, I believe, private land. And if the rain falls, it's muddy. I have driven through to get out of Fortescue already there, but I appreciate the fact that if something happens like rain, you really can't get there. We had explored between, I think, Charles Griffith, the exit from Concept Bay, but that is totally overgrown, and even Charles said it's really impassable. So the other alternative is to look through to get into St. Catharines or Bayfield if we could have that paved. Right, it affects Carl Savannah probably even a little worse, which is St. John.
Hi, Tony. Your concern about literacy is one that we share at the ministry. As you know, we had done some testing, and some of the testing, it was not telling us some good things, was not telling us the best things that we wanted about literacy. One of the challenges we identified is that some of the teachers were themselves having some challenges in teaching reading. Not all, but some of them. And so the capacity building for teachers has started, and we will continue to build their capacity. You'll also recall that the Prime Minister had announced that some master teachers would be coming on board. In fact, it was through consultations with some of the teachers that they identified that they would want some of the specialist teachers placed in the primary schools especially, and we intend to honor that at that particular time. We currently have a team of educators who should be coming back from Jamaica with the Linda Moodle mobile training. That is part of building their capacity because that has been a program that has shown some significant improvements. So what we're trying to do is to see where have we seen success and then being able to expose those who have to help us make that journey to success, making sure we've exposed them to the kind of support. The testing is also something where we have increased our resources this year so we can truly start to test and be able to understand the specific challenge the child is having, because as you know, as someone who's doing some instruction, something that presents as a reading challenge may very well be something else. And so we are now being able to use evidence-based approach to be able to say, this is the support this particular child needs, who is presenting with a problem that looks like literacy, but it may be something else or a little more complex. So whether it's from the capacity of the teachers, the testing of the students, making sure that we continue to expose those people who need to take us that journey to what they need to do the work, that is part of what we are doing. There's also some technology, in fact, that we have brought on board with, we are using it at some of the secondary schools too, where there are some challenges, which will help us in that regard. So we are tackling it from many different angles.
Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Prime Minister. Good evening to the ministers who are here. Good evening to my fellow residents in St. Philip. My name is Vincent Jones, and I am here along with Trevor Lloyd to represent the concerns of the Woodburn community. We do have before us, ma'am, a petition for you this evening, and I'll just read it quickly. And it says, whereas we, the residents of Woodburn Park, have written to successive parliamentary representatives for this constituency, written to the ministries responsible for drainage, Ministry of Transport, Works and Maintenance, written to two successive prime ministers in the Honorable David Thompson and yourself, ma'am, the Honorable Mia Amor-Motley. And whereas we have sought redress from the issue that has confronted this community for the past 45 years, we, the undersigned, petition the government of Barbados through the office of the Prime Minister as follows. 1, to address in a real and fundamental way the issue of flooding that has afflicted this community for the past 45 years, given that this geographical location is known by several government agencies contacted and involved, to sit at an elevation that forms a natural water catchment for the surrounding elevated districts. Thereby, given the volume of water that has and can potentially flood into this district, to recognize that the drainage infrastructure is inadequate. To undertake civil works within the district to address the aforementioned flooding, which will be based on accurate data compiled through rainfall data and hydrological modeling, in order to determine a long-term solution and not one that does not address the real issue as is existing. In so doing, install proper slipper and drainage curbs on the roadways, to repair the subbase and repave the roads with adequate camber and falls, to build the proper storm drainage gutters and soakaways, to build a retention pond to capture the volumes of water that surpasses the absorption rate of any well built in this area. 3, to appreciate the mental fatigue that is afflicted upon the residents of this area every time there is report of a flash flood warning or a heavy rainfall event, whereas several residents have suffered successive financial loss over a protracted period of time and no longer feel safe within their homes when excessive rainfall is expected due to the inadequate drainage that exists to accommodate the volumes of water that flood into this area. 4, to acknowledge and
You have the proposal there? Because the Minister McConney has already briefed us on it.
Yes, ma'am.
So I would suggest that you send it in, because the hour is getting late.
I have 2 more points, and I'm going to wrap up right now.
But
we have it
go
here
to
for
the
you.
point rather than reading the proposal, because we will have it. And Santi is in a position to start speaking to you about other things that they had started to plan up there. Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. To acknowledge and seriously consider the engineer's report and well thought out fact-based recommendations contained within that was prepared for this area by Engineer Andrew Hutchinson, which was issued to the Emergency District Organization in March of 2024, and to move with a level of alacrity to address this issue, given the fact that a day nursery, a senior citizens home, an animal sanctuary, which are all located in this area, have had in the past to have the emergency services effect rescue to prevent loss of life due to drowning. We, the residents of this area, will, with all due respect, are no longer interested in empty political promises, but request credible, effective action to be taken, and for this issue to be taken with the seriousness that we believe it requires. So, ma'am, we have sought to be proactive.
No problem, sir. You
We
can
have done the
submit it.
report, which would aid the Ministry of Drainage.
Please,
And,
I have one question though. Who developed Woodburn Park initially, just for my own edification?
Who?
Woodburn Park. Who developed it originally?
Ma'am, I do not know.
But that's my point. Because I don't think that this was a public development. I think that this was a private development. Sorry, is it, Mr. Lee? It was private. And therefore, I don't know you if you were here at the beginning of this meeting, but I spoke at length about the many developments in St. Philip where people were allowed to do foolishness decades ago, whether it is in terms of building in floodplains, whether it is in terms of not putting down roads, but benefiting from people paying money to them, and the walkway with the money, and inputting proper drainage, inputting proper gutters, inputting proper roads. And that is why the taxpayers are now paying the price. Fortescue is one, two, all of them. You understand? And almost in every instance, without fail, in this parish, there are examples of private developments put down where developers have not honored their obligations to the citizens. Now, with respect to Woodburn, we, like Wotton, there are certain areas that have been challenging. Work Hall, and there's out the room at the moment in St. Philip, but we have gone after them one by one. And I let Santia speak now, because in fairness, I think that the drainage unit has been working on trying to find a long-term solution. So you don't have to worry about empty promises, because I don't make promises, period. So empty or full. I prefer to see what happened at the end, and then we can take it from there.
Thanks, PM. We recently did some clearing of the area up there. Minister McConney had raised a number of the issues and the concerns that you have raised as well. But I'm going to ask Mr. Bryce, who heads the drainage unit, to just speak to some of the works that are being done, because my understanding is that they're doing some bounce-up swale in that area. So I'll just ask him to speak to more details on that.
Well, Minister, the bounce up swale is not actually in Woodburn. That's Atlantic Park, right? But what we do in Woodburn, we know Woodburn is a hot spot, so we try to keep all the drains clean. So we did that before Hurricane Beryl, and we cleaned the detention pond running from. Okay, and we cleaned the retention pond at the back of Woodburn. And the well at the back of Woodburn in preparation of Hurricane Beryl. So all that work was done. In the long term now, I know Charles was doing some studies about Woodburn. I will have to speak to Charles where that is. But that is where we are right now.
Thank you for your response. Yes, ma'am. And this has credible data.
And that has been submitted to the ministry?
That's been submitted through the DEM, but we have a copy along with the petition here
I would
tonight.
suggest DEM is not an executing agency, so I would suggest that you submit it to Ministry of Public Works, the Drainage Division, because as I said, it is not our intention to have flooding areas time after time after time. And at the end of the day, the engineers have to agree on what these solutions are, but in almost every one of these instances, the government is being called in to solve private sector problems where the profits have been privatized and the problems have been socialized.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Was this it? Yeah. The drainage DEM person is saying what? Yeah. Yeah. So we will follow up on it in that respect.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay?
So who should I submit this to, ma'am?
Submit it to Santa. Okay, appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
But you should know the you designed the monument, didn't you?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Right. Who's next?
Trevor Lloyd, Woodmere Park, St. Philip. Good night, Representative. You have been doing a very great job, Ms. Kim McConnell. I'm here not only to back up on Woodburn, but mainly I'm a minibus operator who play my trade on the St. Philip Bayfield every single day. One of our main issues is the farm road issue. I'm there up to last week, 2 weeks ago. I driving a young lady heading to outpatient here at the St. Philip District Hospital. The pharmacy, pregnant lady. And I had to drop my speed to 20 kilometers an hour. The lady was complaining about the amount of jerk she got in the bus. Brake springs on the bus probably every single week, ma'am. If you're driving with a bus load, you know how if your bus come down, you're braking springs. And I think it is ridiculous for you're traveling on that road day out, day in. Even when the rain fall right in front of where, on the St. Congo Road, right where the Merryman House located, all they flood out. You can't, you gotta drop, you gotta come right down with your bus. So this and that we need to look at very serious in the St. Philip area, right? Because it is hard to see that you playing a trade on the road and you breaking springs, you mashing up your bushings every single day, right? Another thing I want to mention about the TAP buses. There are TAP buses that are playing the route, leaving from Bridgetown, going to Colsavannah, Ebenezer, wherever, and they are not competing the routes. We are competing now with the buses that leaving from the Bridgetown terminal and cutting across, straight across by Tree Houses Park and come on to Bayfield, which causes a challenge. Even the Castle buses. The Castle buses, when they go to Castle, they sit down in Bailey's Yard, or Bayfield bus come in and they fling straight in front of you, right? I've called many times to Transport Authority, called Linda Holder, called everybody down there, 'cause I got numbers on my phone like crazy. And nothing is being done.
But have you provided the numbers of the vehicles?
Ma'am, we providing numbers 24/7. Numbers
get
like
them to
37. I get two
them to
numbers,
me.
375, 374, right? I give you all the numbers. I got a whole book here with all the numbers in it because, Mr. Ray too, I document everything, right? So it is hard when you can say that the TAP buses providing service, they're providing service, they're doing instruments every day. So that's the reason why there's so much chaos with the vans and the TAP buses. I heard Blady mention earlier that they're not picking up old people. Yes, it's true. Many days when the TAP bus student, he running from you, you gotta stop and pick up that old lady. And the old lady ain't gonna sing. I don't have a fare box in my bus. I work by myself most of the times. So I gotta end up now taking that old lady down the 6 rows. And they can wait for me when they came back up. Some old ladies, you at the 6 rows junction there, they're waiting for you long hours because the TAP man say, well, I want money today. It's ridiculous, Miss Minister, right? Another thing I can mention about Woodburn Park. And the residents behind me, they can stand and tell you, Ms. K. McConnell, even when John King was there before, they could two-stream and paying. We have been paying our money to get bobcats and tractors come in to clear land that belongs to Chapel Plantation. Up to today, I call Mr. Craig, Mr. Mason. I know they tell me, man, they ain't got no resources. And all the rats and the illegal dumpers and people robbing our houses and running the bushes. So we tired with it. We tired spending our monies, to clear somebody's land that we go safeguard our houses. We push back almost 40 feet from our house because I'm in the back. And every flood water comes through, it comes to us, right? I hear some truckers doing some work here. I don't know if it's drainage. I'm no part of the DO for St. Philip West. I'm very proud. My DO office is right here. And Natasha with 2-3 and playing. I'm passionate. When I move into Woodburn, I'm the person who formed the Woodburn Park community because over 40 years and nothing to do. Rose and Woodburn they're like, when care come, my fishes go up Parish can walk in on tilts. Because we are very hurtful to see that. The Prime Minister said about private developments. But we can't work with people in there for over 40 years. Over 40 years. Mr. Trevor and Marcy and Marshall have been there for 40 years. And nothing has been done to Woodburn. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Just to say that many of the concerns you've raised, we've already said earlier, are actually being addressed. So the Congo Road, I would have mentioned that as one of the roads under the CAF programs, and the design would have closed for that today in terms of the tender. So you can expect in the coming months that we will be able to announce shortly that rehabilitation of that road will actually start. And I would have mentioned before on the tap operators that we have heard you loud and clear in terms of the challenges we are having there, and we intend to have a meeting with them and to review the actual contracts for the tap operators as well. So I think we are in the process of addressing a number of the concerns that you've raised, all right? But thank you very much. Who's next?
Good evening, Deputy Prime Minister, ministers of government. My story is a little different from the previous gentleman. We have had, Anthony Barrow, Long Bay, St. Philip. Yes, my story is a little different from the others. We have had a very nice road done in Long Bay over the past 3 years or so. The problem that we face right now is that that road has turned into a race course, endangering a lot of the residents within the area. I had the fortunate job just a couple of months ago of being called out at 2:30 to identify I don't want to say the remains, but the parts of a young man that was hit and run in the district. Prior to that, another young man was struck. And in both instances, there were hit and run. I must admit that the minister has been with us, Mr. Weir has been with us right through the whole process, so I want to thank him. But the process in getting some signage in the area, I know that we cannot put humps because it's a main area. But added to that is the fact that we now have Sam Lord's Castle, which add to the volume of traffic passing through the district. And what is not realized by people coming to that district is that there are about 15 feeder roads into that main roads, all of them, most of them in bad condition, which need to be mill and paved. So in a lot of situations, you don't realize that you are in the road. You have to more or less drive into the road with cars moving at 80, 90 miles an hour before you can actually know what is going on. So it is a road that needs serious attention. As I said, we just before the death of Mr. Trudeau, he had a meeting with a few of us, and he said that something have to be done because he himself almost lose his life in walking across there. It is that bad. And like I said, unless you are driving across it where you can actually see the danger, it can go unpassed.
No, I was just reflecting with the AG because, as I said earlier, you know, every time we do a road, people ask for speed humps. And as you can appreciate, on a main road like that, you can't put the speed humps on. So maybe what we might have to start looking at is some cameras to be able to identify when people are speeding. But again, my appeal would still be to Bajans to slow down, to take your time, make sure that you have enough time to get to your destination. Because you could, as you are seeing, and we're all seeing, it is costing people their lives as well.
Yes. We are dealing, Minister, with all due respect, with a different breed of persons. I went, if you go over to Emerald City, there are two things there right by the bank where they tell for disabled persons, And this might shock you. I was in the line to go to the bank teller. Not that I got a lot of money on the bank, but, pay a few bills. And a young lady came and parking in her, what do you call it, the thing that you're running, the jogging suits. And I said, but ma'am, look, a disabled person is coming right behind you. That is for parking. She said, yes, if the older they're going dead. That is some of the mentality that we have up there. So we have to put things in place to ensure that people comply. Gone are the days where people will say, well, there's an old person, they get up off the bus and give them a seat. Or people have changed. And of such, I think it is important that the necessary things be done. I would suggest, first of all, for Long Bay, some signage, giving the police the power to report more often, and then we can have cameras. We don't have sidewalks, and I don't think practical to put a lot of sidewalks. But I think that an investigation needs to be carried out as to how you can save lives. Because when I was there the night and I had to go and identify him, and then that knock on the home of the family to tell someone that your loved one is down there in about 10 different pieces was the hardest thing I had to ever face. So that is why I said, I really have to bring this up.
Well, thank you for raising it, sir. As I said, we can certainly explore the signage as well. But again, I hear you on that Bajans have changed, but Bajans need to get back to their basics, because these are all the principles that we grew up with. You got to look out for your neighbor. You can't be driving recklessly and expect that people will not lose their lives in the process. And I think as leaders, we have to keep reinforcing those messages as well. We can't just say, the good old days are gone and we're going to allow people to just die senselessly. So I think we do have to take a stand and keep calling out people and calling out the nonsense when we see it. We cannot, as a government, keep putting, speed humps on roads. We cannot keep, the cost of doing a road and then putting cameras along all of our roads is too costly. And I think we have to meet each other halfway. Where it is necessary to do it on certain roads, we can do it. But equally, Bajans also need to step up as well and take some responsibility also.
Yes. And finally, very shortly, the Prime Minister was not in her seat, but I do want to thank her for being persistent in getting Sam Lawrence Castle back in operation. It has provided opportunities and employment for a lot of young people in the area. And on behalf of them, Madam Prime Minister, I want to thank you.
Thank you, but I will also be fair. It was started under the last government, but we made sure it was finished. So I'm being very fair. What I can tell you as well is that the one different decision we did make was that it was the intention to use the whole 55 acres just for that hotel. And we said, no, let us split the land. So we have another 17 acres that we are now we're going to see who we can get now through advertisement to invest to put another hotel next to that. So you will have hopefully more jobs and more opportunities there.
And now that you are in here, I want to use that opportunity to once again reiterate that we have about 13 roads, 13 small roads in Long Bay that we need some mill and paving, because a lot of the residents...
Santi is hearing you.
You're hearing me? Oh, thank you very much. That we need some mill and paving done to alleviate them walking with 2 and 3 shoes. Right, both of you are hearing me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I do want to reinforce Santia's point about the speeding. The truth is that there are some things that we just need to have a frank conversation on as a family. And the people of Barbados are a family. And a driver's license, potentially, or a person behind a car, because not everybody got a driver's license, is effectively handling a weapon of mass destruction. And if not treated responsibly, is a danger not just to themselves, but to everybody else driving on the road or walking on the road. And I think we just have to continue the messaging I see some things going on roads now with people passing on the inside and doing some foolishness. And we've said to the police that, in our view, that in addition to fighting crime, which they are doing well, we need them to fight and maintain order. Because order is as critical to a society as fighting crime. And whether it is advertising cars in roundabouts, which is wrong, whether it is selling in the middle of a roundabout, and we saw what happened to that youngster the other day with his foot when he was running across, when he was standing up on the road, trying to deal with the coconut vending by Top Rock, whether it is speeding, whether it is motorcycles doing, and that is why we have also paid to be able to have Bushy Park be accessible to all of the motoring federations, because if you want to speed, go and speed on the track. And they are making a case now for us to look at putting a drag strip there, which will mean that let us take all the people who trying to drag on a Sunday evening and let them go off-road and have a ball in accordance with the rules of the Motoring Federation and do all the things that people who are motoring enthusiasts can do or motorcycle enthusiasts can do. And we're looking at that now because the rest of the road must be safe for those who are using it just to be able to go about their normal business. So thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, Madam Prime Minister. Good evening to the panel. My name is Andre Petit, a.k.a. Lord Nelson, from Fishing Boats. I'm from Phobia St. Philip. Okay. Right, so I want to talk about the handrails at Phobia Beach by 120 steps. Needs to be repaired. This is an area where people in the community use these steps to access Phobia Beach and for exercising purposes. We also need an access road built in my area of Phobia St. Philip, opposite Sergeant's Park, because when the rain falls, it's hard to get out, and we need access road in case of an emergency for the ambulance to get in and out. The next point, the fishing industry and the major loss of the fishing boats in Barbados. The fishing industry of Barbados, after the passing of Hurricane Beryl on July 1st, 2024, have devastated the fishermen of Barbados. The fishing industry has lost and damaged over 200 vessels in the Bridgestone complex. I too am one of those fishermen who was affected in the industry, Madam Prime Minister. Yes, ma'am.
I see you have a long 2 pages there.
Hey, can be quick, Madam Prime Minister.
No. What I'm suggesting to you is that if you give it to us and just tell us in essence in 1 minute what it is, but I'm sure like last year when you came talking to us about the ferry, you have a number of ideas. If you give us the written document, then Mr. Morris will be in a position for us to deal with it. As we speak, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Maritime Affairs, Environment and Maritime Affairs, the Chief Supply Officer, who is the Chief Procurement Officer in government, along with representatives of the fishing industry, are in fact in Canada looking at fishing boats to be able to get the industry off the ground again. Okay. So I'm saying to you that if you have stuff, we would be more than happy to receive it from you. But I'm just conscious that it's 9 o'clock already, and we have a sharp cutoff at 10 o'clock because we promised that we're not going that long if we're going to keep this thing sustainable with the public servants who have come straight from work here. And we still have quite a few people after you.
I'll make it quick, Madam Prime Minister.
But then give us the
I can summarize everything, Madam Prime Minister, very shortly. Okay. One of the points I want to ask about really and truly speaking, this is for a number of fishermen in Barbados who may be watching this right now at present. All right. The fishermen of Barbados would like you to explain the business interruption benefit form from the Treasury Department, the Ministry of Environment, the National Beautification Department, and the money that will be distributed to the fishermen. Can you explain that, please?
I'm not sure I heard you, but let us say that we're going to do that not tonight, because I do not want to take up tonight. I spent last Friday in a meeting with all the Fisher Folk Association and all of the fishermen who were there with respect to the business interruption benefit. We dealt with it at Cabinet today. Funds have been transferred to the Ministry of Fisheries to be able to start the payments from next week. They started to collect the data. That is why I had the meeting with them on Friday. for us to be able to determine, and we needed granularity as to who are boat owners, who are boat captains, and who are crew, because they all pay at different levels. And then we need to do a check against NIS, because in some instances people have paid NIS and will be entitled to the higher benefits, but those who have not paid will be entitled to a benefit, but it will not be as much, obviously, as the body who was paying NIS all through the years.
All right, Madam Prime Minister,
Okay?
I'm glad you mentioned that point. A lot of fishermen do not pay NES at any day. A lot.
That-
a lot of them.
That's why we are giving them the business interruption benefit. The business interruption benefit is not an NIS benefit, and therefore it cannot be the same thing that a person would get from unemployment benefit with respect to those who contributed to NIS. So we're not leaving them out there, but it can be the same thing as a fellow who was paying at the same level. In addition to that, the government of Barbados has asked for the account to be opened, and the money that has come from the Latin American Development Bank, 500,000 Barbados, has gone into that account, and any other monies that is being offered to us plus individuals privately can put in there, and that money is purely for the benevolent well-being and welfare of fishermen, to be determined not by us, but by the fisherfolk organizations, but the committee chaired by the PS Finance and having PS Environment and Fisheries and the Chief Fisheries Officer there just to anchor it and to make sure there are no issues. So the government is taking two approaches. We will do what we have to do, and that has nothing at all to do with repair or purchase of boats, which I've spoken about separately. But equally, we've said that any monies that were donated to us for Hurricane Beryl, rather than the government put it in the consolidated fund, we put it in the benevolent fund for fisherfolk so that they can get through. Because even though some of them did not pay NIS, we understand the scale of the problem, the number of families affected, and we understand, therefore, that if we don't do something to fill the breach, not only will we deprive Barbadians of fresh fish, although I must tell you that I learned, to my surprise, that a lot of the fish that we eat in this country is already imported and not necessarily fresh. But that was a shock in and of itself, because we also do a lot of exporting of the fish that our fishermen catch, particularly tuna and others on the long line boats. It goes right out for the higher dollar, as it should. So we hear you. We're but I don't want to spend all tonight, because, as I said, we've addressed this twice and we'll continue to address it next week with the persons, and the team, as I said, is in Canada now looking at specific boats. There were people who, when I went up there 2 Mondays ago, I met with Minister LeBlanc, and Minister LeBlanc put me in touch with other persons who have now been in a position to help us identify the types of boats, because not all of them are immediately usable, but there are some that can be retrofitted. And that's why, rather than any of us go, the fishermen themselves have gone with government's chief procurement officer and the permanent secretary and the chief fisheries officer.
Madam Prime Minister, two more points before I go. Two more points before I go, please.
I would like to ask you to hold, because you are a regular, and I want to give other people the chance to speak. All right?
I can make
so
2 points quick.
Roy can talk to you. All right?
I can make 2 points quick before I go.
Let's go with the others. It's 9:05. Let's go with the others. All right?
All right, and before I go, though, I would like to say of itself that to offer medals of itself for the Barbados Coast Guard and the members of the Heinz Transport team. Thank you very much.
I agree with you, and I want to thank them too, because they did an exceptional job, Mr. Petit, in trying to work, and the BDF anchored that. Who's next? The BDF anchored the salvaging and the movement of boats. Roy, take the document. Thanks a million, Mr. Petit. Appreciate it.
Yeliai, Selassie, Jah, Rastafari, and Prismaninai. Power the Holy Trinity. Protocol already established. I give thanks to be here. The topic I would like to deal with tonight is a topic that have Barbados on the Ross Martin. It's a topic that have Barbados on the global front, and that topic is reparatory justice. Phobia. I live near Petit. Yeah, you know, reparatory justice. I don't speak just for my constituency or thing. I speak for my community, and that goes for throughout the island. The ganja industry, the BCL, BMCL, a lot of people might not agree with starting the industry out of that. A lot of people see that as a negative. But we know, and you all know, that is a positive. And it's more so a positive for my community. The problem is, we're not getting reparatory justice. And as the Prime Minister always uses sayings, you can't start wrong and finish right. There is a lot that has been done. Minister Weir tried to modify the approach and stuff like that. But without starting with an apology, an amnesty, something to make the Rasta man free. For instance, I can draw a reference. A week ago or so, in fact, let me back up. Before we get to the industry, you all will recall that this was a war on drugs. The Rasta man, Rasta woman, anybody that looked like me was in the front line. It is what we call profiling. I don't have to have ganja. Police will see me, anybody, pull over that man, pull over that woman, systems going to the airport, on tell your head, real stress. So it's only fear. Now it's becoming an industry. The change the identity of the farmers. We are now legacy farmers. You know how to give a big title. Well, a week ago, one of our legacy farmers went before the court. And there's a brethren that was farming for years. And the chief magistrate put a fine. I think he might get some time again, you know. And for an industry that is being started, for a legacy grower, because he's one of our legacy growers, to get that sort of treatment. That's why I feel that an apology, something to make the industry start on the right footing.
Let me help you. And I'll ask the AG because to the best of my knowledge...
But pause, before you help me, just give me a second, before you give me help. There's a case also in the Attorney General's office that was there now going near 4 years. I went to the Supreme Court in July, I think it was July the 11th. Not July, June the 11th. The judge put it back to October. And this is almost going 4 years. The judge said I haven't received anything from the Attorney General's office pertaining to the case, and if October comes, they will throw it out, right? And all we are asking in that petition, that's the one by Ras Simba, is for our home to be seen as our first place of worship. I get up in the morning, it should be free that I can light a spliff and don't feel anywhere, right? I mean, I agree with sacramental, but we got to be true to ourselves. Everybody that is Rasta don't deal with they smoke the weed, but don't have to go to a tabernacle. So if it's not his home or her home, you do nothing for me.
I think we have, look, I think most people know how I feel about it. But I think we have to have a full conversation across the country. And we have been very sensitive to the fact that on these issues, there has to be some things that have full conversation. I was about to make the point that when we pass the law to be able to stop persons or to allow the police to do ticketing rather than convictions, we also, by law, took a decision to expunge all the convictions for possession. But the next step, what you calling for is the next step.
No,
and all I'm saying...
Pause, Mr. Prime Minister. Pause, right? No disrespect.
No problem.
The ticketing, if this thing is not known, right? Some police tell me they didn't even know I got tickets. Believe that or not, some police say it. I know I never got ticket.
Well,
right?
I would hate, I seen some policemen in here.
But
I would hate to believe that there are policemen who don't know that the law has changed and that they are no longer to take people into custody fingerprint them, and carry them before the court for less
Well,
than
I would admit,
14 grams?
I would admit that a lot of, I've seen a lot of ease off.
Because the law has changed. The law has changed.
By
Now,
in writing or by word of mouth?
No, in writing, Skipper, the
writing,
law,
okay.
LAW, law.
Okay.
You understand? Act of Parliament. But let me finish the
Right,
point,
go ahead.
because I don't think others understood that those who have convictions for possession of less than 14 grams, those convictions are fully expunged. Okay? So they can be used against anybody. Now, where I am sympathetic and have always been, and it is not a simple issue, and if you look at other countries in the world, they're trying to come to grips with it, is that you're effectively saying that this amount is legal for possession, but this amount is illegal for trafficking and supply. And at some point, the system is going to butt up itself, because effectively, yes, you may be saying to people that they should only grow, and most countries have what, 5 plants, AG, that they're allowed to grow?
How much do we have?
We don't have none yet, so we ain't gone there yet, and I thought you were coming to make that point.
But no, I'm getting there.
You
I'm
understand?
getting there.
But
Mr.
what
Weir-
I'm saying is that, honestly, we need to have a full conversation, because when we did the ticketing, we were also aware that a large amount of the time, a large amount of the time of police was spent being able to process people for small amounts of marijuana. And we felt that police should be focused on dealing with fundamental crime and matters pertaining to violence in particular.
True that.
The AG has now passed me Section 6B of the legislation, which says, notwithstanding the provisions of the Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offenders Act, Chapter 127A, a person convicted for the offense of possession of not more than 14 grams of cannabis who has served his sentence, whether custodial or non-custodial, A, shall be deemed to be rehabilitated, and B, his conviction shall deem to be expunged. And his includes her, as you know. So the bottom line is, the Drug Abuse Prevention and Control Act 2021 deals with that.
Okay.
So that's why I thought, because the first one, we dealt with medicinal cannabis, we dealt with sacramental cannabis. I hear your point, and I hear about the case that is in the AG's chambers, and he will have to speak to that, I don't know. But what I do hear is that we need to have another conversation as a country as it relates now to the fact that there is this conviction. Now, I'll make one last point. Part of the difficulty is that you are going to have people on both sides of the argument. And we need to find an appropriate arena for the conversation over a period of time, because whether we like it or not, there will always be, according to the public health people, 6 to 8% of people who will become addicted to some substance. And the substance could be alcohol, it could even be flour, it could even be sweeties. Do you understand what I'm telling you? No, I'm serious. Yeah. But Sir Richard Haynes was the first person who forced and asked me to go and read on these things some time back. And what we have to make a determination of is whether the disrespect of the law is not a greater undermining of the integrity of social cohesion in the society, rather than treating to this as a public health problem, which we already have with people addicted to other substances, be it sugar, be it alcohol, be it smoking cigarettes, be it marijuana or other drugs. So I hear you, and I simply say that this is a matter that needs a multidimensional conversation for the last track that we have not covered. And we are the first to admit we haven't covered this track yet, but we need to hear from the police, we need to hear from those families. And my understanding that I hear from public health specialists is that teenagers in particular who have not fully developed is where the greatest injury can happen.
It's true.
You understand? And what I want to say, and you hear me say it the other day when I launched the football tournament, that I don't know of any athlete, I don't know of any child, any teenager that should be smoking and drinking at 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. You understand? Because quite frankly, especially since a lot of them want to play sports, how you can play sports and doing all the things that run counter to your body being fit enough for you to do those things? And as a community, we need to be able to say that there are certain things that are for adults. You remember when I was a child, you couldn't drink coffee? As a child, I was not allowed by my parents or grandparents to drink coffee. You understand? Because we were told that that is not for children. You had to drink Milo, hot chocolate, or tea, Ovaltine, anything so, but not coffee. And all I'm saying is, I go back to Santia's point just now. There are some things that we in society got to be able to accept responsibility for. Taking your children and grounding them in religious instruction, be it the church, the mosque, the temple, whatever it is, you got to do it. Because if they don't know wrong from right, they can't even spell the difference between wrong and right. Because they don't know whether W-R-O-N-G is R-I-G-H-T. You understand? Secondly, we need to be able to deal with them. And I spoke about this 2 Mondays ago. There are certain hard conversations that you got to have as a family. And if you see people walking about with things that you know that you ain't get them, they're a teenager or a child, you know that they ain't got the money from where it come from. They can't be walking about with things that you know that you ain't get them, and you don't know how they can afford to have that. And if you're an adult and doing it, well, don't close your eye to how you think you get it. Because invariably, nothing in life is a free lunch. You understand? But on this particular matter, I believe that if you have a sensible conversation as to what mature adults can do as opposed to what children and teenagers can do, then we can begin to have some serious conversation. The CARICOM Commission on this also showed that it was really the American and British approach to criminalization that made this an issue, and that prior to that in the region, it was not illegal. So we are entirely sympathetic, but we just got to carry the society with us now for the most part, and ensure also that those who are most vulnerable, namely our children and young teenagers, do not see this as something that they should be doing. And the parents and the godparents and the community and the grandparents need to be telling children, when you see a child outside on a block at 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock at night, get inside. When you see them outside smoking herb, that is not for you. But if you don't start, and as I thought, we're not talking about them, we don't want to talk at them, we want to talk with them, and we want their parents to talk with them. But I hear you on the other matters. AJ, I don't know if you want to say anything on the law.
No, it's just one question before we go. How difficult it is for the government, just like how Biden has done and other governments across the world, to issue a pardon. Instead of individual, like you say, people records get expunged. That means a man have to go and apply to get it done, or because, for instance, if I have a charge, said 5 years ago, I get charged again. Now, they pull up my records so they know that I went to court 5, 6, 7 times for ganja, right? Now, do I have to apply to get that, or can the government put it where that all ganja charges, not ones including, let's say, guns or violence, that those will be automatically expunged? Or is it only when I have to travel or something so the documents come out, then I have to go and apply to get it? Wait, hold on a minute. I personally feel that the government should issue an apology, or what it is, like how Biden do with all the ones in America with marijuana. There's other governments that did the same thing. I feel if we want to get the industry look right and start right, we should do the correct thing. I feel it's within the power of the government to issue an apology.
I agree with the apology.
Give thanks.
I agree with the apology, but I also want us to know that I'm not sure that America has legalized it across the federal government.
I didn't say legalize
So
it.
Mr. Biden give you an apology, but it's still illegal.
But they still aware, I feel the government could do it, that it won't cause divisions within the community, whereas that some people say, Madison, we want to get ahead with the industry, and aside saying,
Why do you think, Ras Marley, why do you think that one of the first acts of this government was to be able to try to engage with the Rastafarian community and give you access to land? Because I was acutely aware that you have suffered greatly for your beliefs. And I felt that the government, even before we got to medicinal cannabis in there, that we should give access to land.
We really appreciate that.
And I want to continue to do it.
And
so long as y'all organize yourselves, we will work with you, just as we will work with you on the medicinal cannabis. But let the AG answer your point about the pardon and the expungement, please.
A pardon is something different than expungement, so we can concede that. But an expungement, based on our consultation, was what was needed to be done in this case, and it puts the person who would have been convicted in really the same position. Parliament can do this. Parliament said that you are deemed to have your record expunged. So nobody has to issue with any letter. You don't have to apply for anything. The moment that law was passed, you no longer have a criminal record in respect of those charges. So that's
I'm not a lawyer, so you give me some
I'm happy to
clarification.
explain it. In respect of the case with Ras Simba, if you go for police statement of character, whatever else might be on it, a conviction for having less than 14 grams of cannabis will not be on it. It might have on everything else, but that charge will not be on it.
Yeah. Ever got a half ounce? Let's say an ounce.
Anything under 14 grams, Chief. I can't. That's the law.
So as it stands right now, an ounce is over 14 grams.
I'm happy for you that clarification because I can tell you.
You want to play tricks with me?
No, you can send me now to Google it to find out if 14 grams is more or less than
a half ounce is 14 grams.
Thank you.
An ounce is 28 grams.
The Prime Minister Google it. Right, so if you have an ounce, then I'm afraid this provision does not apply to you. So you would not get a ticket. So those provisions will not apply to you. And the benefit that we've given those individuals would not apply to you.
How about the brethren that was in prison for more than that? Let's say for trafficking. What is the position? The men that planting.
Those things remain criminal offenses, punishable on indictment.
So that means the legacy farmers is a criminal?
No, sir. No, sir. I don't know. I'm not sure even with legacy farmers. If we're now talking about
who is a legacy farmer?
The medicinal cannabis, then that's a different story.
If you're talking
about fellas who currently growing ganja,
right? The legacy farmers. But that's the new title.
Well, the law doesn't recognize legacy farmers.
The law doesn't recognize them. Well, that's good. Right. Okay. Give thanks.
You need to make that case, Ras, and that's the point. I thought you were making the case for the broader movement of the next step. And I've taken that to be able to say that the country needs to have the discussion. But I've told you what my concern is about teenagers and young kids. And subject to that, we can have the conversation. Okay? Who's next? That's it?
Good night, Prime Minister, Ministers, people of the panel, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Robert Weir from Royces in St. Philip. Yeah, from Royces in St. Philip, Robert Weir. I'm just trying to find out I am a barber. I lost my business due to Hurricane Elsa. The barber shop and all its contents. I'm trying to find out if there's anything in place that could give assistance to small business people. I've reached out to many people, haven't gotten back a reasonable answers yet. So we're just trying to find out what could be done to help small business people that has lost through like a natural disaster.
We can't tell you because in most instances, it is insurance. Okay? When we got Hurricane Elsa, most of the people who lost for sure that we saw were house owners. I was not aware of any business owners. But we are not an unreasonable people, and within limit, we can look and see what is possible, but the government has constraints because, and that's why we talk about change of behavior. And soon from now, I would like to have a conversation with the insurance companies too. We talked about this at Cabinet today too, that once the building code comes and people start to build to code, whether they cannot be able to get some level of support or discount on the basis of the resilience of the buildings that they have engaged in. We have an unfortunate habit where there are a lot of people who are not insuring, and the country can't carry. If Barbados really, really get hit, you realize we can't carry everybody. As much as we would like to, we ain't gonna be able to carry everybody. So I would suggest that you speak to Roy and we see what it is that can happen in terms of basic tools, but in terms of the building was yours or you were renting?
Yes, it was mine personal.
Okay. So we'll look and see how we can help. As I said, I know we're also building a number of market booths across the island for people. So there's more than one way to be able to resolve problems. Okay?
Yeah.
Where you operated from?
Royce's, St. Philip.
Royce's there as well? Okay, no problem. So see Roy. Okay?
Yeah. Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mil. Who's next?
Good evening, Prime Minister and members of Cabinet. I recognize the lateness of the hour and I won't detain you on two matters which I wish to raise. The first matter pertains to Ragged Point.
Mr. Wilshire, I know you so well that I was tempted not to ask you for your name. But apart from Anthony Wilshire, address please for the rest.
I didn't want to say Anthony Wilshire because there are 3 Anthony Wilshires in the area I come from. One of them happened to be famous, one infamous, and I happen to be the third one.
And you are what?
A poor civil servant.
Retired.
A poor retired civil servant.
Retired.
Yes. But
address?
Yes. As you know, Prime Minister.
What's the address, sorry?
Ragged. My spiritual home is Ragged Point. So you could put Long Bay Development, St. Philip. But in terms of Ragged Point, the last administration, some work had been done on Ragged Point Lighthouse itself. And I gather there were plans to develop the area, the surrounding area, into a national park. I'd recently seen, I think last year, there was an ad in the papers for a request for interest, display of interest, to develop around the lighthouse, in immediate environs of the lighthouse. The other area leading to the sea, which is not owned by government, is owned by a Mr. Mann, who since died in Germany. I want to find out what is the position in terms of the tender for the development of the area immediately around Ragged Point, and in terms of the acquisition of property between government property and the seashore, which was formerly owned by, or which is owned by Mr. Manning. My second question, comment is that the road between Three Houses Park and Beerfield St. Philip is moving. Three Houses Park and Beerfield. If we have a bad rainy season, it's most likely that the road will be cut off. We wouldn't want to avoid that. I don't know what could be done, but perhaps the Ministry of Transport and Works, in its wisdom, could have a look at that. Thank you, Prime Minister. Could I wait for some comments?
Yeah, with respect to the tender, I'm not sure who put it out. It might have been the Bridgetown Port. What I do know is that there had been a previous tender some time ago, and I think Heinz Transport had adopted
Yes,
Ragged
yes,
House
yes,
Lake
yes.
Point.
Yes.
As to the environs, I'm not sure who has put it out, but I can check on it for you.
Yes,
Okay?
thank you.
And with respect to the road moving, that is because of the spring, I imagine, that makes the road unstable. So, Santia, Mr. Bowen, I'm not sure if you all can say anything. I remember that as a child, on the other side of the park, that I used to go crabbing as a young teenager with some people well known to you. I'll tell you about it later.
Just one quick
Who's
point.
going to speak to this with the water and 3 houses to Bayfield?
Yeah, Prime Minister, I just wanted to thank you on behalf of St. Catherine's Club for the funds advanced with the Arts and Sports Promotion Fund to assist us in putting on the guttering at St. Catherine's and laying some pipes, over 2,000 feet of pipe from 3 houses spring to the club. Climate change has affected us at the club in a very, very, very severe manner. And it's going to be impossible to play cricket between January and May or June in the future unless we have a reliable source of water. So I thank you on behalf of the club for that. I am disappointed that you saw fit to disapprove the additional 5,000 which I had asked for, but I know that you are kind-hearted soul like you will reconsider if I put up another
I'm
case
sure.
for the 5,000.
Once the evidential burden is met, of course.
Thank you, President.
Please.
Yes, please. Good afternoon. My name is Cameron Smith. I'm the senior tech for St. Philip, Parish Church, St. George, and St. John. They had a phase 1 to that project, which was done up to the Bayfield Road. There was supposed to be a phase 2, but it was never completed. We did a little patching, but patching is not going to work on that road. That road needs to be rehabbed. The foundation is very unstable, so you have to get it put on the list. You have to go to DPM, and it has to be prioritized according to how things go.
Thank you for that response. So I believe that it will be put on the long list of roads to be done. One final thing, Prime Minister, if you may allow me, to thank profusely my MP, Minister Weir, for the nice road, concrete road, which was done at St. Rich Crescent, Long Bay Development. It was one of those roads, projects which I would have preferred not to have, but the other residents liked it a lot, and it increased the traffic in the area. But I think that it is an example of, I think that what we can do with concrete roads in Barbados. Thank you, Prime Minister.
Sandy will tell you that we are tracking, piloting a number of concrete roads. It's a little more expensive up front, but it lasts longer. Look at Reef Road there off by town, by the old Ministry of Commerce down there. Who's next?
This because I'm a 4'11". Hi, how are you? Good evening, all everyone. Prime Minister and the Cabinet, the ministers. I'm here. My name is Valerie. I think I'll say my name again. My name is, everyone knows me.
And address.
My name is Valerie Suzette Jean-Marie. I am a Bayesian by descent, according to my citizenship. But according to the law, I'm actually Bayesian. I was born in 1965 in London. My father's Bayesian, and the Constitution says that I'm Bayesian, not Bayesian by descent, as I formerly called myself. I now know, I'm reading the Constitution, and I now know that I'm actually Bayesian, and I'm proud to be Bayesian. I came to Barbados. I'm not going to go into it.
What was the address, Valerie?
I regard myself as a displaced person from Bel Air.
Which one?
Bel Air and Crane. St. Philip. Displaced. And I'm not, you know, I'm always diplomatic when I come to these forums. And I hope I shall continue to be diplomatic. But suffice to say, I came to Barbados to bury my dad. And there's been many, many anomalies and malfeasances surrounding his passing and the transfer of his estate. Now, I know that you all know me as with many heads, some controversial, you know, the march for the vaccination and 5,000 plus strong. Yes, I'm one of the female founders of that march. And you all will also know me as a musician and as a tutor at Christ Church. And our children did very well. Miss K, is this Miss K? Our children did very well, okay? I had some children come to me and we helped them with their numeracy, etc., etc. There's a hat that you may not know that I have. I have tried to reach the Attorney General to let him know, but I've managed to reach the Auditor General to let him know of a very special hat that I hold in Barbados. There's an organization called the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners. And it's a global organization. And I am actually, and I'm not too sure whether you're aware of this, man, but I'm going to tell you now. I am actually the interim president of the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners for Barbados. The interim president of the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners for Barbados. It's a global organization, it's very big. Head office is in Texas. Barbados actually has 80 certified fraud examiners in Barbados, and I am their interim president. And I have been for quite some time. With all the things, all the controversial issues that's been happening with me, as you know, the imprisonment, etc., etc. Now, and I'm stating this because every time I come to these forums, I come with diplomacy. And I think that I need to step forward a bit more and say that although my introduction to the civics of Barbados was controversial and adverse, and it was a personal one, yes, and I agree that you shouldn't deal with personal issues, sub judice, blah, 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 blah. However, the fact that the parties involved in my situation, in my case, are actually public officers that are actually embedded in the police force, that are actually, and I hope I'm not being muted because I know that's happened to me before when I speak, but I'm being diplomatic, that they're actually part of the judiciary. I think that this matter that I've been enduring for the last 7 years, and that I myself and other returnees and other Bajans by descent are enduring, is actually in the public interest. That's a probate. It's a but it should be.
Let me just say that I can't take allegations against one side or another with a matter that is
we
sub
have
judice.
the Perjury Act. You quoted the Perjury. You quoted an act.
Valerie.
Yes, please,
we have
ma'am.
given you a wide berth to speak here this evening.
Yes, you have,
I am
ma'am.
closing it off by telling you that I can't do anything publicly because as far as I know, your matter is before the courts.
Not
There
so,
are
ma'am.
3 arms of government.
Not so,
Hold
ma'am.
on, just let me finish, please. There are 3 arms of government.
Indeed.
The legislature,
Yes.
the executive, and the
Absolutely.
judiciary.
Absolutely.
Once the matters were put before the judiciary, it completely removes it from the rest of
In
the other 2
normal
arms.
circumstances, but if it is
Hold
the,
on, I
the
want to
judiciary
say-
that are at fault, they were named as
with
pallbearers at my
with
father's
all
funeral.
due respect, even if it is a member of the executive, the judiciary, the parliament, they are all subject to the law.
Absolutely,
Okay?
I agree.
They are all subject to the
So
law.
why would the police not look at my case
hold
then?
on. With all due respect, if there is another matter pertaining to the police, that is why there is the Police Complaints Authority, AG. And,
I can't
hold
reach
on,
them,
and
you
let me
know.
finish. Not only that, there is also the Ombudsman. So I'd like to suggest that if you feel strongly aggrieved, that you write it down. And I can give you the assurance that the current Ombudsman has cleared the backlogs that existed there for years.
And you have, to
Okay,
your,
and
you
your-
have
hold on,
invited
and
me.
your case will not be the first case that accuses persons who are occupy positions of power, and in this country, they will all be held accountable.
Thanking you. This is
Okay?
what I need to hear.
All be held
Thanking you.
accountable. But what I cannot do is deliberate from this position as Prime Minister in a matter.
I would never ask you to
in
do
a
this,
matter
ma'am.
that involves an allegation and a counter defense or a counter suit
I would
or
never-
whatever.
I would never ask you to do that, ma'am.
Let us let the
Ma'am,
others know. But I
ma'am,
thank you
ma'am.
and I congratulate
Ma'am.
you on the work that you're doing with the kids, the common entrance, and ask
Ma'am,
you to keep it up.
Will you
Thank
acknowledge what I've told you about that I am the interim president of the Association
I
of
can't
Certified
acknowledge-
Fraud Examiners?
I've heard you. And
Right, so I've had the meeting with the attorney, the Auditor General. May I have a meeting with you? I've tried to reach you, sir. May I have the meeting with you also?
But I don't know.
I have tried several times.
And I'm saying that to ask him here and to put him on the spot, you all can write. He can write his office. And if he's available, he'll meet with you.
I will come
Okay?
back in the week, in August, first week in August, and I'll try and make an appointment with you.
Okay.
And ma'am, finally, you promised to come down to the school, and you didn't come down.
And I haven't seen any details, but if you remind Roy where they are, then I will try to come.
Thank you. Come
Okay?
and see the children.
But I've commended you on
Thanking
the
you.
work that you're doing this.
Thank
let's
you so
let's
much
move
again.
to the others.
Thank you again.
Thank you, my
Thank you,
dear.
everyone.
Who's next?
Good evening. Hi. My name is Darian Mitchell. I'm from Emerald Park, 6 Road, St. Philip. I only have one question, and I was just wondering what's the position of the first-time homeowners grant of the $3,000 that was promised in the 2022 election. I called BRA several times. I'm not getting any answer.
Yeah, it hasn't been implemented yet, and that is because we're just taking our time. What we did, we took the first step in being able to put other amendments. As you would appreciate, a manifesto gives you 5 years within which to execute certain things, and we do it in accordance with the fiscal space. Part of the difficulty that we had, and we're trying to get the number of houses moving, and what we did was to cap the price of property so that invariably those people who are going for the home ownership, William, right now the price for those properties that we're doing in government is capped at $12 a square foot. Okay. And you would appreciate that that is significantly lower than the $20 and $25 a square foot that others were charging in the private sector. In my constituency, private sector charging $25 a square foot. So $13 times 5,000 square feet is how much? $65,000? That's far more than the 5,000. So we've been putting our money first in trying to get the sites and services going, but we have not forgotten the commitment, just as we've not forgotten other commitments that we've made with respect to the fiscal situation. So,
Okay,
all
just,
right?
just quick question
Thanks.
then. So that I would have bought
But
a
some
home.
of the properties that are available are there.
Right, I would have bought a home in 2022. So I was just wondering, when that comes into play, then would I still be able to apply?
I can't tell you. I would like to tell you, but I don't make instant policy.
All right, no
All right?
problem.
But suffice it to say that there are other ways. You're working?
Yes, please.
Okay. What do you do?
I work. I'm a sales rep for Safety Supply.
Okay. So one of the things that I don't think that people recognize that we have done as a government sufficiently is that we have significantly reduced the income taxes in this country and also increased the reverse tax credit and the people who can benefit from it. Because before, you had to be earning 13,000, then 18,000, and we carried it to 25,000 for people to get the 1,300 grant to offset the money that they pay in VAT. Similarly, you don't pay income tax for the first 25,000, and then between 25 and 35,000 a year, so long as we can afford it every year, we give you back what is known as a compensatory income credit. And for everybody over 35,000, we drop the income tax rate significantly in the country. So we've been able to hold it in spite of being in the IMF program, in spite of the COVID pandemic, in spite of the hurricanes and the freak storms and the ashfall and the hurricane again now, we've been able to hold it. I can't promise if the climate continue at the rate at which it is going, I can't always promise to hold it, but we're going to work our best to be able to hold it because we wanted to give back Bajans money in their pocket. Now we do accept, as I said, that homeowners need some help, and that is why we're trying to deal with it first and foremost by keeping the price of land and services, because your land price is also influenced by the cost of putting in the roads and the water and all the other services. And we have kept it down by saying at the moment it should not go above $12. We've kept that position for the last 4 years. At some point, that 12 may go up marginally, but at this point, we've been able to hold it. So, but bear in mind your please.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Who's next?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Peter Bradshaw, and I'm from Sanford. And I've noticed some very strange things going on in Sanford and Maps and Ruby in regards to land tax. I am starting to wonder if the people on agricultural lots are going to be penalized for using them for their intended purposes. It would appear that people that are buying agricultural lots and just using it as a large house spot will be taxed as a residential area, and the ones that are actually doing farming will be taxed as a commercial property. So my land tax will go from $320 to $4,500. How do I compete?
My understanding is from the Revenue Authority that there were some issues where they literally have had mistakes with the assessment of some of the houses whose dwelling houses and rates were changed on agricultural lots. They are currently reviewing that now, and I think Sonia, the Revenue Commissioner, spoke to you as well too. So they are going through that. In addition to that, I am almost certain that there was an agricultural rebate. That
Yes.
there is a rebate for those who are genuinely farming.
For 50%.
Exactly.
So instead of
And
$320, I would be paying $2,300.
No. But what I'm saying is that that is if there was not a mistake with what they've done with you. So I need to be able to find out, and I can't tell you that, but what I do know is that there was a mistake with the categorization with a number of properties with respect to moving them in the categories, and that the updated bills will be reissued by the authority to reflect the rates that would have been associated with the previous category. So suffice it to say, I can't speak to your individual issue,
No,
but
I
have
just wondered
spoken
what's our
generically.
time frame.
Right, I've
Because
spoken
unfortunately,
generically.
my
but-
house has been frozen by BRA.
but
So
I don't know what frozen means, but
well,
whatever
I
it
can't
is.
sell it or use it as collateral because
Yeah.
I owe land tax.
Right. So therefore, whatever it is, we will investigate it on an individual basis, but from a collective perspective, I've spoken to what the Revenue Authority has indicated to both Dr. Brown and to myself. Okay?
Okay, so I can...
So on the individual matter, then we can look, because I don't know what you mean by frozen. I can't imagine that it's frozen for 1 year, land taxes, and I can't imagine that they would put
You
it...
can borrow or sell a property unless you can get a clearance from land tax saying you do
Right,
not owe
but
land
the
tax.
point is that if they are issuing new bills, as has been communicated with me and others, and William, who was communicated with you too, then you have to wait and see, sir. But I can't tell you off the top of my head, because the one thing I do not do as a politician is get into people's tax businesses. I set tax policy. I do not execute tax bills, whether it is VAT or corporate tax or income tax or land tax. So I would suggest that you give us the information and we ask the Revenue Authority to address your matter individually. Yeah? And that way, any attempt or any perception of there being a freeze on your property can be removed. Okay? Thank you, sir. Who's next?
Good evening. Good night, Madam Prime Minister and members of Parliament. My name is Trevor Sobers. I'm from Eastbourne, St. Philip. This evening, I'm aware that tonight, St. Philip Speaks is merely about St. Philip, or people would expect it to be about St. Philip. But for me, I say if St. Philip speaks tonight, let it speak for as many Barbadians as possible. My concern regards the youth, especially in their education, labor, crime, and social care. First, I want to commend you all on bringing back the summer camps, but I also wish to say that many of the youth are already sitting on the blocks before sitting the common entrance exam, and so by the time the camp comes around, they are already enrolled in their own summer activities and not the ones you provide. So while it may capture many, which I'm glad for, there are still one too many unaccounted for. Additionally, if we wish to achieve sustainable development, each individual must have an identity of what it means to be a proud Bajan, far beyond the crop over culture. As at worst the other day, I spoke with another young man who not too long finished school, but he had no clue the difference between the minister, the prime minister, or the president, and was headstrong in a debate with me that you, ma'am, are the president of Barbados. Hopefully for his sake and others, your request for us to pray for Barbados wouldn't mean that you are also a church minister as well. With that being said, we hold fast to our literacy rate, but reading and comprehension are two different things. Daily I see illiteracy in many forms, and if we have persons who are only aware that 1 + 1 = 2, and they want money just because it will give them access to instant gratification, that impulsive approach will potentially 9 times out of 10 lead to risky behavior as the answer and criminality as its remainder. This isn't partial to graduates nor dropouts alike, especially if faced with little resources and daily struggle. We have to address the fact that many Barbadians have an identity crisis, which often coincides with one's self-worth. I caught the van today, and the conductor told me to hold aside and step down the back of the bus. But before you know it, he saw some tourists, and he had a British accent. Then by the next stop, he was a Jamaican. And before you know it, he was a gunslinger in Trinidad and a ballistics expert regarding President Trump's assassination attempt. These things need to change if the country is to have a future, not only built on pride alone, but industry as well. As we know, November is coming, but Christmas will be the topic before Grand Kadooment is here. For anyone living in St. Philip, we all know that 6 roads lead to one place or the other. and not even the bus is showing up on time to go toward Dodge Prison. Meanwhile, we are losing our best and brightest minds for a lack of hope. Geniuses don't only come from Queen's College, Madam Prime Minister. So we have to address every demographic wherever they are equally. I spend much of my time helping my community, and I could tell you for a fact, we need more access to practical opportunities like the Gateway program, which can teach a man to fish, and well, we welcome more job attachments in the event that we do pursue self-employment, similar to the guy the other day whose dream was to have a snow cone cart. We wish to avoid the nightmare of not knowing how to elevate our self-employment efforts, especially if we take your advice to then have children. I've never seen an 80-year-old nail technician, but I've seen persons who thought that they were business owners ending up being owned by their businesses and having to go pump gas at 40. I'm proposing that we have more social workers to connect with families within the communities and among the primary schools upward in order to bring structure, opportunities, and a reform mindset to Barbados as a whole. Things are tight and we need opportunities, even if it means employment overseas. This land is filled with skilled professionals who cannot afford to be exploited or neglected, and we don't wish for crime to become a viable career option. Upwards to yesterday, I received a few phone calls from persons being let go at the end of a year contract, which came through government efforts. And while I'm grateful persons had employment, it is concerning where their lives will be going as they return to life prior, with some now facing debt, plus the high cost of living and more responsibilities. I wouldn't want any opportunity that was intended to solve an issue be misinterpreted by anyone to believe that the government may be in the business of selling false hope. I've come here tonight hoping to gain some attention to the cracks in my community and others. Verdun House understands reform and rehabilitation to me better than anyone else. And a similar approach needs to be extended outward into the community before people qualify themselves into similar institutions. I see there's a trend at these meetings whenever people raise major concerns. Roads are always an issue, but if we don't do more to address the road that we are on, then the only road Barbados will be on will lead to hell. The last thing we need isn't for a person to feel in prison, but for them to expect and embrace abuse as a way of life by the hands of persons who say they care. All that does is create a vicious cycle as we attempt to take care of our own people. But first, we need to motivate and do better, take better care of our social care workers who wish to care for us as well. The crime and hostility is a symptom of being in a reactive state, and if we neglect the bond between the economy and the social element, then more welfare babies, prison walls, and gravestones will be created. St. Philip shares the sun with everyone across Barbados, and I'm willing to see these things addressed to make Barbados a better place.
Mr. Somers, I think that you've heard from everybody here that they respect the fact that you have been very thoughtful, that you have been able to articulate some very critical points, and that if this is buttressed, as you said, by the work that you're doing to try to close in those cracks in your community, then I believe you deserve support. So I'm sure that one of these three people here, I'm not sure which community you're from, is Eastbourne? And Dr. Brown?
Yes.
And that if there are things and community-based activities that you need support on from, either from us, Ministry of Community Development, the Arts and Sports Fund, what's the other one? Ministry of Youth Affairs and Community, or Ministry of People Empowerment, that please let us know. Because, as I said, this is not about government alone.
Correct.
This is about everybody stepping up. And I use the phrase step up deliberately, because when I say many hands make light work, I don't just say it because it sounds easy to say. I
know.
I can lift this, look, easy so. But if I say to the four of us, let's stand up and lift it, they're going to say, what else you want lifted? Correct. And similarly, you can't do it alone. But if there are others working with you in your community, then you can make a difference. And there's that wonderful Bajan saying, one blow, is kill old cow. And that allows us to appreciate that if we each do our own little thing, 1 + 1 + 1 + 1, the cumulative impact of what we are doing. I do not believe that these issues are beyond us. I strongly feel that if we try together, and we're not going to get everybody, but if the majority of us are moving in the same direction with the same purpose,
Correct.
then I believe that we can see appreciable progress and that we can save many, many, many people who are now falling through the cracks. One of the difficult things for me is that we have had to come to government at a time when we've had so many constraints on what we can do, particularly with what we inherited. We took on a debt that was up in $18 billion. We've been able to bring it down, but we've also been able to grow the economy so that you're seeing corresponding room month by month, year by year. When Beryl comes, Beryl can push us back, so you understand? But we do believe that if we can just stay the course, the things that I talked about tonight, like the grant money for the South Coast Sewage Treatment Project, how many people ever get the Barbados government grant money before? Santia, when you were Minister of Water, we got 40 million US, 80 million Barbados promised to us as grant money for Water Authority. This program is likely to give us a similar amount again. And there are other programs where we have gotten some grant funds. Mr. Wiltshire, you've been in government long. You ever see anybody give the government of Barbados grant money to that effect? Never. So you say one thing, you say the next. And I have learned that life is as it is. Not how you want it, but you got to play the ball as it is. And to that extent, we have, I said at the beginning of estimates last year, not this year, that we are moving back to mission transformation. And mission transformation means lifting the heavy things from health, education, youth and community development. Kirk is doing the job now of integrating all the social care and welfare agencies into one so that we have, if we have 10 here and 20 there and 30 there and 50 there and going in different directions, it can't help us. But when we add up all that we have over 350 social workers. Yeah. And if they all see themselves as first responders, then it makes a difference. If we can get the community groups, the cultural groups, the sporting groups. How many sporting groups and cultural groups they had when you were growing up, Tony, in St. Philip? Enough. How many they got now? Huh? A handful. Island-wide, not in St. Philip. Island-wide. Pinelands must be one of the only ones that has endured. Friendship Youth Group in my constituency has endured. There are very few that have endured across the time, across generations. So if you and others, I got time for anybody who is going and putting together people in positive activity, from drumming. Santi, you got a program now with the stilt walking in your constituency. We've asked, and ironically, Dale, the police received a recommendation, not from us, but the police received a recommendation from the International Police Agency Service, that's what it's called, IPAS, that basically said, look, you're going to have to be able to use the Barbados Police Band also in community policing. Why? They're not going out there to hard talk. They are proficient in music, but they're also policemen, so that they cause people to understand that policemen are not Babylon or people that you must hate or throw out or reject. They're ordinary people who can work with you on other things and help make life better for you in a community. So I want to commend you, and I want to encourage you through your MP and others that if there are programs where you are seriously working at building community activity through cultural groups, sporting groups, community groups, you got us. And that is why Mr. Wiltshire was able to even reflect on the point of us helping with St. Catherine's Club, and there are other clubs across the country. We gave money last year through the Ministry of Sports because we also recognized that a number of the sporting clubs went through hell oh hell during COVID. They couldn't have fundraising events, they couldn't do a lot of things. And they're not necessarily back where they need to be, but a lot more are getting there, and we will continue to work with them. So thank you very much, Mr. Sobers.
I
All
look
the
forward to
best.
your support.
I look forward to working with you. Well done. Well said. I want to pass the mic now. Indar, you haven't had a chance and been able to speak. I don't know if you want to say something before we wrap up quickly. Then Kate and Sonia, and we just say thank you to everyone for a wonderful evening again. St. Philip gets all the time to allow us to wish you happy crop over because you are the parish that had more calypso tents than most at the beginning.
Thank you, Prime Minister. I think we had a pretty good conversation with the people of St. Philip. I was particularly pleased to note that wise people came and expressed how they feel about situations taking place within St. Philip. A lot of people came with recommendations also, and that is always a good thing because as representative, certainly in my constituency, I seek to make sure that I can see, hear, and feel people. But at the end of the day, a lot of it is dependent on what people are asking us to deliver. Obviously, government's resources are stretched. We have to prioritize. And what I like tonight is a reasonable conversation that came with recommendations for us to see how we can make St. Philip better and to make the lives of the people of St. Philip better. I have a lot of time for Ras Martin. I think he's a very positive man. He brings a lot to the table, and I am confident that at some point in time, many of the things he raised will perhaps reach the point where they can be addressed. But as it is right now, government resources, we have to jostle with what we are doing, and we are doing our best to make sure we can accommodate and facilitate the wishes of the people of St. Philip. And I want to use this opportunity to thank all of you for coming out and for participating. It is much appreciated. Thank you, Prime Minister. I want to thank you and the team as well for being here in St. Philip. And after a long day in Cabinet, still managed to stay with us throughout the evening. Thank you, and may God bless all of you.
I'm going to beg you to talk to us off the record because it's after 10 o'clock, and I really want these people to get home. Okay, so you come to the back to Roy here, and we'll deal with you. All right? To Roy Morris. Thanks. Okay?
I just want to say thank you to all of you who came out and who have spent this long evening with us. You know, what is exciting is, as Indar said, is that people have come with suggestions, and I am particularly pleased with those from St. Philip West, especially those from Woodburn and other areas who have come with recommendations. And for the teams who are here, and I really want to take this opportunity to appeal for support for our district emergency organization. We now have a new head of that organization. The organization is really looking to turn a corner. So I want to use this opportunity to appeal to all of you to join our district emergency organization. And thank you all, and have a good night. Thank you, Prime Minister, and everyone for the work that has started to happen in this part of Barbados.
Good night again, everybody. Like my other two colleagues, I want to thank all of you for turning out. I think this is the largest number of people, at least from St. Philip North, that we ever had, especially from Sanford, apparently. I am particularly pleased, and I want to thank the Prime Minister and the head of BRA for acknowledging our what's the word, Prime Minister, concern with respect to the land tax issues. I know many of us have faced it, and I consider it to be quite timely, because I am aware that many of the residents were getting a little bit antsy, understandably so, and I can only encourage those of you, and I know there are many who have issues with the calculations of the land tax, to come forward and let the members, the personnel at BRA, to put in your objections and have a conversation with them. I am particularly pleased as well with what we're seeing going forward with the roads. Farm Road especially is not in my constituency, but many of us traverse it. Most of us in North traverse it. So in essence, we benefit from it. The road in Ruby to Fairfield, that would be very, 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 very much appreciated. The members that spoke about Ruby Plantation and so on with the private roads and the agricultural roads, we look forward to seeing some progress along those lines. So basically, I think it was a fruitful evening, and I thank all of you again for coming out, and thanks to the team.
Thank you very much, and all that's left for me to do is to wish you, 1, a happy Emancipation Day, and 2, a happy crop over, and to simply say that I hope it is a happy and safe crop over for everyone. And I want to thank the people of St. Philip for the wide range of issues raised here, and to say that many of you may be surprised how much we use the recommendations that we get in these meetings to be able to add value to the delivery of public policy. To the people of Woodburn, we take your petition and also the clear work that you have done with Mr. Hutchinson, and we will try to be able to deal with that in the appropriate manner. As I said, Minister McConaughey had alerted us on it, and we are therefore ready to be able to move in that direction. The site visits that we've agreed, Jason, that you all will do. Roy, I am to do the one with respect to the matter with the Environmental Protection Health Department with the cars, and we want to continue in the same way that Mr. Sobers ended, by encouraging more and more people to become active in their communities. We are strong always when we work and move together as a people. And we showed it when we came to fight the battle to save the value of the dollar at the beginning, and we showed it when we came together to fight COVID. And I believe that in the same way, with respect to the incidents of gun crimes and violence that we're seeing across the society, that we can stamp it out if we work together to be able to do it, not just as government, not just as single families, but across communities and working hand in hand together. So please, everyone, get home safely. This is a wonderful breezy night, but please have a happy emancipation and a happy crop over. Thank you very much.